This happens only in some other countries. Thanks to such videos that we see online, on social media and in media in general, we cannot close our eyes. The problem exists and we must do something about it as society.
Since we began making this program, Clara's eldest son got married. Her daughter-in-law, Adina, arrived at the house smiling in her wedding dress. She looks amazing, and so does Clara in her new outfit. The yard is decorated with flowers and filling up with guests. The men have slaughtered a sheep, and the women have cooked a mountain of food. Times are changing for the better, Clara says. She was kidnapped as a girl, but her sons are doing things properly.
Үлкен ұлым үйленді, бәрі пасогласие болды, қыз өзі көніп келді, алып қашып келдік.
My daughter-in-law, she wanted to marry my son, so it was an agreement. She came to my house out of her own will.
Сорлап ап кетіп, сорлап ап қашуға мен қарсымын.
I am against the marriages when girls are forced to marry someone. When the girl likes the guy, when they agree to marry, and she knows he will be a really good partner for the whole life, I think that's the right thing. She knows who his parents are, she has her own opinion about his parents, his family, and she does it out of her will.
Did you know there's a new law that the girl has to agree? Were you aware of that law?
Yeah, естідім, бәріне хабардармыз.
We know about this law. I think that's a good thing.
Assignment, Stolen Brides of Kazakhstan, The Fight Back, was presented and produced by Monica Whitlock with Rose Kudabayeva.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Wednesday, December 18th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen filling in for Marcy Marcusa. It is a snowy one out there. Good morning to Abby Adiemi, our technical producer, Darren Morash, our YouTube live stream producer. Corey Funk is our show director, and Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, highways are closed, many of them, and anyone taking a bus inside the city of Winnipeg, whether it's a commuting bus or a school bus, is asked to expect delays. A blizzard blowing across the prairies hit late yesterday, and it's expected to end this morning, but the strong wind means blowing snow, drifting, and reduced visibility will continue until early this afternoon. In addition to highways being impacted in the north, it's a cold warning that continues with wind chill values approaching minus 50. So we'll bring you the latest on the storm system. As well, a domestic violence case was stayed this year because it took too long to get to trial. It is one of 15 Manitoba cases thrown out since the Supreme Court set a presumptive ceiling on how long criminal cases can drag on. But hundreds of provincial court proceedings are still taking just as long. We'll hear about it in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you, Heather. And a correction, it is Thursday, not Wednesday, as I previously said. We're going to bring you updates on the blizzard sweeping through southern Manitoba, from forecasts to road closures and school closures. We're going to have it all right here on Information Radio. We already do have a growing list of school closures. All Red River Valley School Division schools are closed. Schools in the Lord Selkirk Division are closed. Staff are asked to stay home today. All schools in the Prairie Rose Division are closed. Borderland School Division has closed all schools. Schools and division offices in the Hanover School Division are closed. Garden Valley School Division has closed all schools, and there's no school today in the Fort LaBosse School Division. Buses are canceled in the Seine River School Division. There's no in-person learning for students, but staff are asked not to report. It is considered a workday, however, for teachers and divisional staff. And we also have a long list of closures in the Franco-Manitobain School Division. We will bring you that full list still to come, and we will have more on that. Also coming up, lots of stories, lots of weather updates. Stay with us right here on Information Radio.
Today on Q.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. The actor Wagner Moura was born at the tail end of a military dictatorship in Brazil, where he would often hear stories about a time when artists were censored or arrested.
The first thing that they do is they go after colleges and artists.
He'll tell you how he's channeling all of that into his new role.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Trump administration is making new demands of its biggest trading partners. It is giving Canada and Mexico a list of concessions it wants in the next version of their three-way trade agreement. But it is not clear the U.S. is going to stay in CUSMA. As Katie Simpson reports, Washington is making these demands as Canadian officials push to keep the trading relationship intact.
It is in the interest of the United States to keep free and open trade with Canada.
As Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman was appearing on American cable news to make the case to keep CUSMA. Her counterpart, the top U.S. trade official, was submitting a report to Congress listing off the complaints the Trump administration has about the three-way trade agreement, outlining the changes Donald Trump wants to see in order for the U.S. to remain in the pact, including specific demands of Canada. Trump wants provincial bans on the sale of American alcohol to end. He wants it to be easier for farmers to sell American dairy products into Canada. And he has problems with the Online News Act and Online Streaming Act, which American tech giants don't like. These issues will be discussed as part of the CUSMA review, which begins next year.
I think it can survive because it's the right thing for all three countries, but it's the right thing for America. Canada is your biggest customer. You sell more to us than China, the UK, France, and Japan combined. So you put all those countries together, that's 1.7 billion people. We're 40 billion people, and we buy more from American manufacturers than all of them combined.
Canada has already indicated it would like to stay in the agreement and is open to making improvements to the deal. It's also demanding the U.S. end punishing tariffs hitting a wide range of Canadian industries. But there are no signs Trump is willing to budge. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
U.S. President Donald Trump is promising Americans an economic boom like the world has never seen. But his year-end televised speech comes as some polls suggest he's taking a popularity hit, largely because of the rising cost of living. Willie Lowry joins us from Washington. And Willie, go over Trump's speech for us.
In many ways, this was a classic Trump speech. The U.S. president speaking for just 18 minutes, relatively brief for him, but spending much of that time railing against the Biden administration, blaming the former president for much of what he believes is wrong with the U.S.
I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans.
Trump kept the focus primarily on domestic issues, though he touted his foreign policy achievements, mostly helping to end or quiet conflicts in the Middle East and elsewhere. The speech felt harried at times as he rushed through his list of achievements and sought to convince Americans that the economy was back on track.
So how do some of these claims measure up in the real world?
Yeah, so the president insisted that inflation has stopped. It hasn't. It's still hovering at just over 3%. That's actually a slight increase from the previous month. He praised tariffs, crediting them for revitalizing the country's economy and bringing in what he said was $18 trillion in investments. That number is hard to verify. He also said he had completely closed the southern border. He hasn't, though illegal immigration has significantly slowed under Trump. This late-night address comes as President Trump's approval ratings have dropped to below 40%, according to several polls. He's hoping that by speaking directly to the people, he can convince them his first year has been a success.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. The U.S. government is admitting the actions of an air traffic controller and Army helicopter pilot played a role in a fatal crash last January. 67 people were killed when an American Airlines jet and a Black Hawk helicopter collided near the nation's capital. It was the deadliest plane crash on U.S. soil in more than 2 decades. The admission by the government is in response to the first lawsuit filed by one of the victims' families. In the filing, the U.S. government says it is partly liable, but suggested that others, including both pilots, played a role. The lawsuit also blames American Airlines. The company has filed a motion to dismiss. Prime Minister Mark Carney will host a virtual meeting with the country's premiers later today, but first, he and Ontario Premier Doug Ford will address the media and take part in a signing ceremony. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, what are they signing?
Marcia, Doug Ford's government reached an agreement with First Nations leaders earlier this fall, laying out what Northern Indigenous communities would receive in return for their cooperation to build new road infrastructure, leading to the rich critical mineral resources in Ontario's Ring of Fire. At the time, the Ontario Premier called on the federal government to get out of the way and not duplicate the province's approval processes. Today, he's expected to sign a deal with the Prime Minister to facilitate just that, a one project, one review approach to resource development from now on. Ontario's Finance Minister, Peter Bethlen-Falvey.
We can't spend years and years and years on process because capital has disappeared. And when capital disappears, nothing gets done.
After that public event, the Prime Minister and the Premier of Ontario moved behind closed doors for the First Minister's meeting. What's on that agenda?
First Minister's talks are now dominated by two discussions that go hand in hand: developing major projects to boost the economy and strategizing against the latest trade threats from the Trump administration. BC Premier David Eby told reporters yesterday he's been in talks with federal officials to speed up new investments to improve trade infrastructure in the West, a need that's come into sharp focus after the decision by Saskatchewan potash exporter Nutrien to invest in a new rail port facility in Washington State instead of BC.
If they have $60 billion to take an hour off of the train ride between Montreal and Ottawa, then I am sure we can reach agreement on moving goods and people around British Columbia without difficulty.
Tensions have also surfaced over whether there are now two sets of environmental regulations in this country, a special deal for Alberta following its recent MOU, and stricter standards on things like methane emissions and electricity generation for every other province.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Janice McGregor in our Ottawa Bureau. European farmers are driving their tractors into Belgium, protesting a proposed free trade deal with the South American countries. They're blasting music, blocking the roads, and setting off fireworks outside an EU leaders' meeting. Police have fired tear gas and water cannons at the demonstration. The farmers say they're worried this trade deal will undercut their livelihoods. The EU is hammering out an agreement with the countries known as Mercosur. That's Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. The deal would progressively remove duties on almost all goods traded between the two blocs over the next 15 years. Canadian scientists are already at the forefront of Arctic research and are expanding that expertise to the other side of the world, to Antarctica. A group of researchers are presenting early results from an all-Canadian expedition there from last March. CBC had exclusive access to that expedition. Our international climate correspondent, Susan Ormiston, has more.
So this is the first time we've all gotten together since we were on the ship, because everyone gets to sort of present their preliminary results.
Scientist Sandy Steffen collected snow, water, and air samples in Antarctica looking for mercury and microplastic contaminants. She found them.
The majority of the microplastics are found in fibers, so it's these little strings of fiber.
Microplastic fibers carried in the atmosphere and deposited in Antarctic waters.
No, this shows that the levels are slightly higher than what we're seeing in the Canadian Arctic water, which can be of concern.
Another scientist, Alex Normando, and a team pulled up cores of sediment a meter long from the Southern Ocean floor. Back home in Bedford, Nova Scotia, he put them through CAT scans to help map glacier retreat.
So the type of data that we're doing allows to calibrate models that can explain future warming. Based on what we know from the past, this is what we're expecting for the future.
He says Canada is having a moment with Antarctic research.
For Canada, I definitely think we are. This was the first cruise in a very long time, and now it seems like the Navy is interested in going back, so we're very hopeful that this is the building of an Antarctica program for Canada.
Building on our polar knowledge, he says, in the Canadian Arctic. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Calgary.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. There's a blizzard outside, folks. Stay with us for all your winter storm updates. Much of southern Manitoba is under an orange level blizzard warning, and we're waking up to intense snow and very strong winds. And in the north, it's extreme cold that's making an impact. We'll update you on weather conditions, road closures, school closures, and more. But coming up first, do you have a car? One Winnipeg nonprofit needs your help delivering holiday hampers. Maybe not on today's roads, but stay tuned to hear how one drive could change a family's holiday season. CBC's Heather Wells is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg doctor was shaken after a man went on a racist tirade before the start of a menorah lighting ceremony at the Health Sciences Centre. It happened on Monday. The doctor says the man shouted "Free Palestine" when he was done. She says she and others were stunned by the profane anti-Semitic insults. We'll hear more about that. As well, the number of people on the wait list for Manitoba Public Housing is the largest it has been in 5 years. We're going to hear the impact of that coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. And thank you to Heather. Thank you to the whole team this morning, keeping us all organized on a variety of closures, from road closures to school closures. Before we get into the weather and the commute, I am going to go over a fairly long list of school closures that we have already received this morning. Beginning with Red River Valley School Division, all schools are closed today. Schools in the Lord Selkirk Division are closed. Staff are asked to stay home. All schools in the Prairie Rose Division are closed. Borderland School Division has closed all schools. Schools and division offices in the Hanover School Division are closed. Garden Valley School Division is closed. No school today in the Fort LaBosse School Division. No school in the Turtle Mountain School Division. School is closed in Beautiful Plains School Division. Evergreen School Division. The Seine River School Division has closed its schools today, along with Prairie Spirit School Division. We also have a long list of closures in the Franco-Manitobain School Division. So here is that list. La Gemaudier, Gabriel Roy, Riel Berard, Saint Joachim, Pointe de Chêne, Saint Jean-Baptiste, Saint Agathe, Noël Richaud, Aurel Lemoyne, Gilbert Rossette, École Régionale Notre Dame, La Source, Saint Lazare, Jour de Plaine, and Saint George. So lots of schools already closed. We will keep you updated with that list as it's expected to grow. And lots happening today, so stay with us here on Information Radio. Hello and good morning to the team. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. He's if you're watching on YouTube, you can see our rooftop shot of what Portage looks like right now. It's blustery out there. There are some cars making the trek. Abby Adiemi is here with a look at that blizzardy forecast.
Yeah, and this is all because of that Alberta clipper that is slamming the region right now, making conditions really dangerous for everyone. The big story for today is the snow and the wind. We're talking about up to about 10 to 20 and even more in some areas of fresh snow expected across the region, with wind gusts also getting up about 90 kilometers an hour. We're looking at a total whiteout across the southern part of the province this morning, and even tracking it all the way up. Travel is going to be nearly impossible as visibility would drop to close to zero in most of the areas. We also have warnings for southeast and northern Manitoba. We have that yellow warning there. The south is dealing with more like the orange warning, the orange blizzard warning, while up north we're dealing with the yellow warnings as it's going to go heavy snow and extreme cold will be hitting that part of the province. For Winnipeg right now, currently minus 17 at the Forks. Before the blizzard conditions will taper off, we're still going to see this stay with us for most of the morning. Then that would follow by some clear conditions through those gusty north winds that will keep the snow blowing through the afternoon period. Then temperature falls to about minus 22. The wind chill for Winnipeg today is going to get to about minus 34. So there's a risk of frostbite in play, and it's very real today. Across board, we're seeing minus 15s to minus 21s in the south, while up north we're seeing temperatures and wind chill close to minus 50 through the afternoon period around the Churchill area. I'll tell you, if you are not going to be on the road today, if you don't have business on the road, please stay inside. Winnipeg right now, minus 17.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
And thank you to associate producer Sophia Peralta-Barone. She is here to help out Corey Funk on a day like this. We need a little extra help on the commuter line.
Yes, I imagine it's going to be busy. But also, there's some highways that might not be so busy because they're closed. Actually, a lot of highway closed right now, particularly in western Manitoba. Highway number 1, the big one, all the way from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg, closed completely right now. That's highway number 1 from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg. And many of the highways north of that, directly north of that. So we're talking about Highway 10 that takes you through Riding Mountain up to Dauphin, closed, as well as parts of Highway 16 from Minnedosa going west. There's a long list. But go to Manitoba 511 before you, especially if you're in Western Manitoba this morning. Check that out. There's even some highways in the Interlake, especially including Highway 8 from Gimli up to Hecla Grindstone, as well as Highway 7 that goes up to Arborg as well. So you just really want to check out the highway map before you head out this morning. There's many, many highway closures, and I wouldn't be surprised if that list grows throughout the morning. Right now, the Perimeter Highway is still open, but it is being reported as covered, and I imagine it's pretty treacherous conditions out there on any highway really in southern Manitoba this morning. So do be careful if you are hitting the highways this morning, if you absolutely have to. You can give me a call. Sophia will be answering the phone this morning. You can let us know what you're seeing out there on the highways, on the roads, on the bike lanes, on the bus stops. You can give me a call. Give Sophia a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, if you have a car and your license, of course, and maybe if the roads are a little better in the next couple of days, you can be Santa's helper. The Christmas Cheer Board of Winnipeg needs drivers to deliver hampers. Each year, they help Winnipeggers enjoy the holiday season with food and toys. Shauna Bell is the executive director of the Christmas Cheer Board of Winnipeg, and she joins us over Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
You know what? It's a busy morning, but I'm curious. You're at home, so that's very nice. What are things like out your window?
Definitely looking. It could be better. That's for sure. I mean, I had really been hopeful that it was not going to be a blizzard like this today, but wishes are not exactly coming to fruition. So we'll work with it.
We're going to work with it, and you're asking for drivers. So maybe not something folks want to do today, but I'm curious, how many hampers are waiting to be delivered?
We have just around 5,000 hampers that still need to get out to families across the city. So definitely not today. We're not, well, we hope that people don't come to see us today to deliver, but over the weekend, if they can, even Friday, if the roads are clear enough, we would really appreciate the help.
What difference does a hamper make for a family around the holidays?
Well, it can be a huge difference. Folks are having a difficult time this season. Actually, the last few years have been very challenging, especially for people who are trying to manage with low income. So sometimes that can be the only gift that a child in the household gets. Oftentimes the food is something that is they are going to go out without. So the hamper with all the food that we have contained in it is something that should last for up to a week. And then, of course, that gift to those children can make the difference in a young child's life.
How many hamper requests does the cheer board get per year?
Well, last year we tipped the scale at 21,000 hampers. That was a record high for us. I don't know if high is the right term to use, but definitely it was the most we'd ever seen. This year we're pacing along the same. There was an expectation that would be a bit higher, and we still are taking applications up until December 23rd. So they're still coming in quite at the same pace that they have been for the last month and a half.
Let's talk about the act of delivering one of these hampers. What is it like to see the family receive this food, receive these toys?
You know, a lot of these folks, it's a sense of relief, and also just a sense that, you know, there's somebody out there that cares for them and is wanting to help them just have a happy holiday season. So it can be quite emotional for a lot of folks when they're delivering those hampers, and it definitely is greatly appreciated on the other side.
Are there any stories that stick out to you from over the years of some deliveries?
You know, I've done quite a few deliveries in my time with the cheer board, and I think it's just always the children and how excited that they get when there's something that somebody is bringing for them. And I remember being at a house, this was going back a number of years ago, but there was nothing in the home, and there were 3 little ones just running around, and they were pretty excited. It was also a feed a family that we were delivering at that time. And so there was quite a bit of food coming into the house, and both the children were super excited. The mom was absolutely overwhelmed. And those are just moments when you know that what you're doing out there is not only helping, but it's just giving people hope.
Shauna, if people want to volunteer, what do they need to know?
Anybody who wants to come and deliver hampers for us this season can just come to our location at 133 Paramount Road. They just visit us at the loading dock doors and show their license to us. We'll set them up with a number of hampers. Hopefully we can get them into a location that they feel comfortable delivering to and that they're familiar with. And then we send them out on their way, and they just need to get signatures for every hamper that they deliver. And then they can email that back to us. We try to make it as easy as possible, and we are so excited when we see folks coming in to help us out.
Shauna, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and excited to hear the update.
Absolutely, and everyone be safe out there today, please. It's going to be a wild one.
Shauna, thank you. Shauna Bell is the executive director of the Christmas Cheer Board of Winnipeg. If you want to help out, you can drop by 133 Paramount Road between Monday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please make sure that you have safe travel and that the roads are clear and open. And on the weekend, you can visit from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Registration is not required.
Breaking tonight every day.
The tariffs are very good. They're very powerful.
Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves.
We bring context to chaos.
What are the consequences of this action?
We must retaliate.
In our own backyard.
Come on, plane crash.
And beyond our borders.
It's the scene of an airstrike.
You're gambling with World War III.
Negotiations are ongoing.
From the source you can trust.
It's time to dig deeper into the story.
The National, Canada's newscast. Tonight on CBC.
You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. U.S. President Donald Trump went on network television last night to defend his record on the economy to Americans, many of whom are struggling with the cost of living. He said prices are going down and wages are going up. He blamed the Democrats for problems in the economy. And now the timing of the speech is important. Next year, Trump and Republicans face midterm elections that will decide control of the House and the Senate. Thomas Schaller is a political scientist at the University of Maryland. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
So what was the tone and the big message of Trump's speech?
Well, the tone was shouty and desperate. The message was everything was horrible before I was president. It's all the fault of Democrats and former President Joe Biden. Everything is fantastic and getting better now. And it's 100% to my credit. I'm Donald Trump. I've made everything amazing since January 20th. How come you people don't understand this? I mean, it was really desperate. And he just went for about 22 minutes nonstop. It seemed like there wasn't a comma or a semicolon or a period anywhere in there. It was really, really loud, and it struck a note of real desperation and blame shifting. And, the irony for Trump is that he came into office because of inflation, which wasn't Biden's fault. We had global inflation in every economy around the world, including Canada and Western Europe, because governments pumped trillions of dollars into their citizens' pockets during COVID because people couldn't work, and too many dollars chasing too few goods is the definition of inflation. And, The Economist led its cover on October 19th, 2 weeks before the election, saying America had the best economy in the world. But to Trump, he capitalized on the fact that inflation was still high, hadn't come down, and that's fine. But now he's lived by the sword, died by the sword. He has benefited from an economy which wasn't necessarily Biden's fault, and now he's suffering from an economy which is not entirely his fault, Trump's fault, but that's the reality. People unfairly blame presidents for bad economies, and they unfairly credit them for good economies.
And he very much defended his tariff policy. Tell us about that part.
Well, let's remember that Donald Trump doesn't understand how tariffs work. He's proved that time and time again. He believes that a tariff is like an extraction from a foreign country's treasury that deposits into the U.S. Treasury. That's not how tariffs work. And, of course, he's imposed them, including on Canada and other countries, and on commodities in a willy-nilly way with threats of them, and then imposing them, and then pausing them, and then reversing them, and then reimposing them. And so it's created a lot of instability for, economic actors and supply chain problems. And I think a lot of Americans, we know the polls show that they think his tariff policy is a bad idea. And he continues to defend it. And, he said, my favorite word is tariff last night. And so I don't think that served him as well as he thinks it does. And he's claiming that it's bringing in tens of trillions of dollars, which it's not, in terms of receipts to the U.S. Treasury. And people are kind of tired of it. And we know there's story after story reported of people losing their jobs because factories are closing down because the goods that they rely on to make end-use manufacturing of this or that product have gone up. And we know that it's, aggressive policies toward Canada and other trading partners has caused Canadians and Europeans not to come here because of his aggressive economic policies, and tourism was down, and communities that live along the Canadian-U.S. border have seen their revenues fall. And so he's having a real hard time explaining how, he has fixed the economy when, A, it's not fixed, and a lot of the things that he's chosen to do, especially tariffs, have maybe made it worse.
What are media analysts in the U.S. saying about the speech?
Well, on Fox News and talk radio and conservative social media, Truth Social and, Twitter, X, they're praising Trump and his strength and, echoing his blame-shifting points and so forth. So that's not particularly surprising. And, I'm sure the liberal media is pounding him pretty hard as well. I think, down the middle, maybe CNN kind of reporting. I watched a little bit of that last night. They definitely harped on the fact that, Trump seems like he's screaming at the camera. It's almost as if he's saying, like, don't you people understand how great a president I am and how great the economy is? It was interesting to me that he didn't use the term golden age. If you remember, on his inauguration, he's like, this is going to be a great American golden age. And he kept saying golden age through the first 5 or 6 months. And I think, Trump, something must have happened in the recent weeks. He goes to these cabinet meetings, and we've seen little clips and snippets of it, and it's a sycophancy Super Bowl where each cabinet official goes around and tries to one-up the previous cabinet official by saying how amazing Trump is and how great and how lucky and grateful the country should be. So he's surrounded by a bunch of sycophants who tell him how amazing he is and stroke his very fragile ego. And I think he must have got a whiff of the fact that the rest of the country is not feeling that way about him. His economic approval, which was about +5 or 6 when he came into office, is now about -25. So he's dropped 30 points in approval on the economy in 11 months. And somehow I think Trump got a whiff of that. And he thought, well, if I just go give a speech and tell everybody how great things are, that's going to solve it, and we'll be fine going into the 2026 midterms. But I think shouting at people and telling them that affordability isn't as big an issue as they think it is not the way to go.
Did he at all address the concerns of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck?
He did mention affordability because a couple of weeks ago, and we know, his staff was aghast at the fact that he was calling affordability a Democratic hoax, as if like affordability doesn't exist as a concept, and that the Democrats created the idea of affordability out of whole cloth. people have to afford things. That's a real reality. And unlike a lot of the scandals in the kind of page 6 New York Post media world that Trump grew up in Manhattan, you can't just spin your way out of this. You can't just attack your opponents. You can't just make up numbers. You can't just tell people, oh, the price of your groceries isn't as high as you think it is, or the cost of your health care insurance isn't as high as you think it is. And you're doing just fine because it's a great golden age, and it's a great golden age because of me. And so you can shout that all you want, but that doesn't change people's pocketbooks. It doesn't change their budgets. It doesn't change how much money they have at the end or debt they have at the end of this month or this week. And I think people are starting to wake up to the reality that this quote-unquote genius billionaire businessman isn't the steward of the economy that he thinks he is, and particularly his signature policy on tariffs isn't working out the way he thought it would.
Thomas, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Great to be here, Chloe. Cheers.
Thomas Schaller is a political scientist at the University of Maryland. We have some road closure updates for you due to this blizzard. Highway 1 from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg is completely closed. So are many of the highways north of that section of Highway 1. Also, a few highways closed in the Interlake. You can call us on the commuter line if you have more updates for us. We'll bring you that entire list just after the news here. The number to call is 204-788-3093. We have already received many calls, so keep them coming. We will also have more details on your commute, school closures. That list is also growing, and weather after your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is a blustery -17. That blizzard is expected to end this morning, then clearing. And as the sky clears, the temperature keeps sinking to -22 this afternoon. Well, southern Manitoba is feeling the impact of a blizzard that started bearing down late yesterday. CBC reporter Megan Ketchison is out in the wind and cold this morning. Megan?
Well, I'm absolutely coated in snow because we have the wind that is gusting, the snow that is blowing. That is having an impact on visibility even inside the city and out at the airport. We're hearing that there are cancellations and delays out at the Winnipeg airport. If you do have a flight today, you'd be advised to check with your airline now. Inside the city, I've seen plows that are out and buses are running, but they are somewhat delayed and you're being told to expect delays. The Winnipeg School Division has also issued a transportation warning saying there could be issues with transportation in the schools. Now, outside of Winnipeg, there are more than a dozen school divisions that have closed. It's best to check with your individual school division because the length of that list is long. Highways, the Trans-Canada Highway is closed from Winnipeg almost to Brandon and beyond. And checking with some of the highway traffic cameras, you can't see anything because of visibility. In town, visibility is reduced as well, even in spots like Osborne, where you'd expect it to be sheltered. And drifts I'm walking through are up to my knees. So if you're heading out today, be cautious. Reporting live, Megan Ketchison, CBC News.
Thanks so much, Megan. Find some shelter quickly. A Winnipeg doctor says she was stunned by an anti-Semitic tirade at a Hanukkah ceremony. It happened during a menorah lighting Monday at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre. The man hurled profanities at a group of 10 people as they were setting up. The doctor says the man shouted, "Free Palestine," when he was done. She says she was in disbelief. CBC is not naming her because she fears for her safety.
We were all just stunned. None of us really said anything. I thought we all just felt a feeling of that this was just completely surreal, that we couldn't believe that someone not only had yelled at us when we were literally doing nothing except standing and talking to each other, but that they had used such vile language.
Hospital leadership and Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera have since spoken out against what happened. Winnipeg police are investigating. The number of people on the wait list for Manitoba public housing is the greatest it has been in 5 years. Tenants and advocates say the current government needs to do more to increase housing supply. Shauna McKinnon is a professor and chair at the Department of Urban and Inner City Studies at the University of Winnipeg.
The current state of Manitoba housing is in, serious disrepair. It's, over many years that we have underinvested in it. We don't have enough of it. And again, much of it that we have is not in good condition.
51 new social housing units have been built since the NDP came to power in 2023. McKinnon says it's not enough. She says the NDP faces the challenges of making up for the previous government. While building new units takes time, McKinnon says the government could consider purchasing existing buildings to add to the social housing supply quicker. A domestic violence case was stayed this year because it took too long to get to trial. It's one of 15 Manitoba cases to be thrown out since the Supreme Court set a presumptive ceiling on how long criminal cases can drag on. But hundreds of provincial court proceedings are still taking just as long. Chris Gamby at Manitoba's Criminal Defense Lawyers Association says the whole system is underfunded.
We don't have enough Crown prosecutors. We don't have enough courtrooms. We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough court staff. We don't have enough defense lawyers. And stuff like this will continue to happen until something different is done.
The province says it's hired more prosecutors and support staff to address heavy workloads and delays. 35 Crown attorneys have been added since the government took office. The trade deal known as CUSMA is up for review in the new year. In recent weeks, Donald Trump's chief trade negotiator floated the possibility the U.S. president could walk away from the North American trade agreement. But Prime Minister Mark Carney tells CBC Trump hasn't given him any indications he's interested in tearing up that deal. We'll hear more on that story and other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The Winnipeg Jets lost another one last night, falling 1-0 to the St. Louis Blues. Winnipeg-born goalie Joel Hofer kept the Jets out of his net. Jets head coach Scott Arniel shrugs off suggestions his team might be lacking confidence.
We've been kind of saying that for a while. That's part of your job. It's what you get paid for. Show up, do your job, and when we have to do it, more consistent with more bodies and more people.
One Winnipeg player with a good game last night, Connor Hellebuck, stopping 25 of 26 Blues shots. The Jets will continue their 3-game road trip tomorrow in Denver. You can find the latest news and the latest on highway conditions and school closures and this winter storm. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
And that list of school division closures is getting longer and longer. So stick with me here. I'm going to go through all of them that we know of so far. Starting with the Interlake School Division, they have closed all schools today. All Red River Valley School Division schools are closed. Schools in the Lord Selkirk Division are closed. Staff are asked to stay home today. All schools in the Prairie Rose School Division are closed. Borderland School Division has closed all schools. Schools and division offices in the Hanover School Division are closed. Garden Valley School Division has closed all schools, along with Fort LaBosse School Division and Turtle Mountain School Division. Beautiful Plains School Division, Evergreen School Division has closed schools today. Seine River School Division is closed. Prairie Spirit Division has closed its schools, along with Southwest Horizon School Division. Buses and schools are canceled, and staff are expected to work from home. We've heard from the Winnipeg School Division. They've issued a transportation weather warning. It says due to the blizzard warning, it says expect transportation delays and cancellations, and that parents and students and staff are recommended to check the WSD website for updates. From the Brandon School Division, they say buses will not be operating outside the city of Brandon for today. All day, Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. All other schools will be open. Buses will be running within the city of Brandon, and attendance at schools is at parental discretion where travel is required. We got an update as well from the Franco-Manitoba School Division. All schools within the perimeter are now closed. We will keep you updated on that list. As Heather said, we will have that list along with road closures up on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. And speaking of weather, CBC's Riley Lachuk, our weather specialist, is here after his eventful walk into the studio.
Yeah, if you're on foot, on bike this morning, snow drifts, even inside the city here. I have about a 2-ish block walk into work, and it was pretty deep in some spots out there. The wind, certainly nothing to play around with this morning. Looking at winds north right now, 60 gusting to about 90 at the airport right now. Even inside the city, if you don't have to be anywhere, it's a good morning just to stay off the roads because we are looking at some very treacherous conditions. Winds across the the south, gusting anywhere from about 70 to about 90 through the Red River Valley into the Interlake. So that just gives you a sense if you're looking at what's happening outside your window in Winnipeg this morning. On some of those more open highways with some of that snow we got overnight, certainly 10 times worse outside the city this morning with some of that snow. We're on the tail end of it, so I'm not expecting too much more as we get through the daytime today. Because, I mean, in Brandon even, we're on the very, very end of the light snow. But the story today, as we get through the rest of the day, will be the wind. So that orange level blizzard warning remaining in place, simply because as we get through the day today, winds will remain very strong as we get through the afternoon hours here. So even if the snow tapers off by 8, 9 o'clock this morning, the wind will carry us through the rest of the day today, even getting back into some clearing by later afternoon. So back even into some sunshine, some colder temperatures, but the wind will be the thing that really sticks with us through the day. Even by the time we get to 4 or 5 o'clock, looking at gusts still around 60 or 70 through the Interlake and the Red River Valley. So that's why I say if you can stay off the roads, if you can stay inside for the day today, this is a good day to do that.
Thank you so much, Riley. That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. He will be back throughout the show for more updates on your forecast. Corey Funk, busy day for you and Sophia Peralta Barone with that commuter line.
Yeah, we've got a few calls on the commuter line. I'm going to get to those right away, but I want folks to know about one thing in the city already that's going to disrupt your commute. There's a hydro outage that's affecting the intersections on Pembina. It runs from Pembina and Abinogi-Mikana all the way to Pembina and Clarence. So you're going to have some blank intersections between there, which you're going to want to treat as a four-way stop. I looked at the hydro website, and they estimate, it's always an estimate, there's a big range that power will be back on in that area there around 8:30. But right now, between Pembina and Abinogi-Mikana and Pembina and Clarence, you're going to have a lot of blank intersections this morning. So it's going to be very, very extra slow going on Pembina this morning. If you can't stay off the roads, you're probably going to want to. As for the highways, highway number 1 from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg, completely closed right now, as are many of the highways north of that section of highway in western Manitoba this morning. Chances are, if you're on any highway north of highway number 1 in western Manitoba this morning, it's probably closed right now. As well as there's some highways in the Interlake as well that are also closed, like highway number 8 around Gimli, as well as highway 17. Highway 6, actually, that runs up north through the Interlake, still technically open, but we did get a call from Fred, who said it's very, very slippery, very poor visibility, particularly around Ashern. He said he was heading up north this morning. As well, here in the city, Mike even called about Notre Dame and McPhillips. He said some of those snow drifts, which are constantly moving and growing, are actually kind of pushing cars almost onto the sidewalk, because all of a sudden you're driving and all of a sudden there's just a big snow drift with no choice to go around it up onto the sidewalk. So really bad conditions on the roads, no matter where you are in southern Manitoba this morning. So avoid the roads if you can. If you have any other more updates for us about those road conditions, you can call Sophia on the commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Corey,
you.
and thank you, Sophia. Thank you to Darren Morash on our YouTube live stream. Tune in if you want to see that live roof cam over Portage. It is blustery out there. Turning to our business news, Crystalie Ramlakan is here with the business report. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chloe.
So starting with trade news, the U.S. is listing demands that it says Canada must meet to extend our free trade agreement. What's the latest on this?
Yeah, so U.S. President Donald Trump's lead on trade has laid out a series of conditions the administration wants in order to extend the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement, known as CUSMA, when it comes up for a review next year. So it's actually the first time the administration has revealed publicly what it wants Prime Minister Mark Carney to do to keep the pact. So the U.S. is taking aim at the Online Streaming Act, which brought online platforms like Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube under Canadian broadcasting rules. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says the legislation discriminates against U.S. tech and media firms. And the U.S. also wants better market access for its dairy products. So Canada does allow some U.S. dairy products to trade into Canada tariff-free, but there is a limit, and actually, American suppliers have never reached it, but still they want some rules loosened around that. And Greer also wants Canada to address the provincial bans on the distribution of U.S. alcohol. And of course, we saw those emerge as a form of protest in light of tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber. And, Greer told Congress CUSMA has been successful to a certain degree, but says there needs to be changes before Trump agrees to extend it for another 16 years or revert to yearly reviews, which Canada doesn't really want due to the uncertainty that would cause every single year.
Moving to the auto industry, California may halt Tesla sales due to false advertising. What are the details on this?
Yeah, so California regulators are threatening to suspend the automaker's license to sell electric cars unless it tones down its marketing tactics for its self-driving features. So this is after a judge concluded the company has been misleading consumers about the technology's capabilities. The ruling says Tesla has engaged in deceptive marketing practices for years by using the terms autopilot and full self-driving to promote its autonomous technology. So Tesla will have a 90-day window now to make changes that more clearly convey the limits of its self-driving technology. And, the automaker has already been plagued by a downturn in demand that began during a backlash to CEO Elon Musk's high-profile role overseeing cuts in the U.S. government. And increased competition has also weighed on sales. But despite the slump, Tesla's stock price touched an all-time high during early trading yesterday before backtracking a little bit later. But still, the shares of the company are still pretty high.
Lastly, Krista Lee, how people view the Oscars is changing.
Yes, that's right. So the Oscars goes to YouTube. So the awards show is moving from broadcasting to streaming in 2029, switching from ABC to YouTube, which is really a watershed moment for the entertainment business. So YouTube assigned a 5-year deal for the exclusive rights to the Academy Awards. And the deal underscores a tremendous power shift in the media industry, which, really has been upended by streaming platforms. So the Academy seems like it is embracing a new reality, though, that viewers, in particular younger ones, now stream most of what they watch online. Even new movies are increasingly viewed at home on streaming services. So, this agreement ends an exclusive run on ABC that started all the way back in 1976. And the Academy has been auctioning off the rights in recent weeks, leading to speculation that a new big tech buyer would swoop in. And it seems that, one has.
Very interesting. Thanks, Krista Lee.
Okay, thanks, Chloe.
That was Krista Lee Ramlakan with your CBC Business News. CBC's Corey Funk is in studio for an update on your commute.
Yes, so we have one more highway closure just to report here. So, of course, Highway 1 between Saskatchewan border and Winnipeg has been closed all morning. But also now there's one section of the perimeter that is actually now officially closed according to Manitoba 5-on-1. And that's the section of the perimeter highway between Highway 1 East and Highway 15, the highway that takes you to Dugald there. So that small section, according to Manitoba 5-on-1, is closed right now. I wouldn't be, and it just seems like in general those highway conditions across the province are pretty treacherous. But the rest of the highway is technically open, but you want to avoid driving on there if you can because it's really poor conditions all around. But technically now that section of the perimeter highway is closed between Highway 1 East and Highway 15. So careful out there. Drive safe and call our community line if you have any more updates. 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank
and
you.
Stay with us here on Information Radio. We will continue to bring you road closure updates. We have a long list of school closures that I will get to shortly here. You can also head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. We have an article right now regarding the highways that are closed as this level orange blizzard warning is in effect for much of southern Manitoba. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. It has now been 10 years since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report. In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government is moving forward on the 94 calls to action and pledging to build a future where survivors are honored with remembrance, justice, and a fairer Canada. For more details from the Government of Canada, CBC producer Romani Makik spoke to Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and MP for Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski, Rebecca Chartrand.
when I think about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and it being 10 years since then, I think about the lived experience of survivors and how they changed the landscape of this country with the truth telling that they've done. And I don't think we can ever, go back to denying at the scale that we did with their bravery and sharing those stories. And I also recognize there's still a ways to go. Um, and that is, that is the work that so many of us continue to carry out on a day-to-day basis, whether it's through work or our homes. Yeah, that work is ongoing.
Yes, I agree. Um, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission listed 94 calls to action, from committing to reducing the number of Aboriginal children in care to enacting an Indigenous Language Act and more. Tell us a bit about some of the work to implement the calls to action.
Yeah, so what we've saw is that, calls to action 1 to 5. I think about my own experience in fostering children or being a foster child and how important it is to reform, child welfare, ensuring that we're keeping families together, that we're focusing on prevention, service delivery, kinship care, and wraparound support. So I think we have done some work on that. I mean, it's going to take a couple of generations, as the former Senator Sinclair has stated. Education got us into this mess, and education is going to get us out. So, unfortunately, we continue to bear the responsibility of having to continue to share those stories and bring Canadians along. But I do feel we have been moving the needle, and it's important to celebrate those wins as well.
That was Rebecca Chartrand, Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and the Minister responsible for the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, speaking to CBC's Romani Makic. We just got a call on the commuter line from Winnipeg School Division Superintendent Matt Henderson mentioning that all school transportation, so all buses for schools in Winnipeg, are cancelled today due to the blizzard conditions. So this includes Louis Riel School Division, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and the Winnipeg School Divisions. All buses are cancelled. We will bring you more updates on the school divisions where classes are also cancelled coming up here on Information Radio. Stay with us. But coming up first, from solving 30-year-old math problems that humans couldn't to blackmailing its users. For better or for worse, artificial intelligence has been a force of change this past year. It's driven economics, shaped geopolitics, and transformed how we live. So what does that mean for the year ahead? CBC tech columnist Francis Sims is here with more. Good morning.
Good morning.
So why was this the year that changed everything?
This was the year where AI moved from being a buzzword and just a tool that students use to help write essays or people use to help write difficult emails for their bosses, to actually moving into the companies that to implement. And what's happened is that these AI firms have told the CEOs of companies all around the world that if only you embed AI into your workflows or the way you do your business, you're going to make a lot more money and be more successful. And so companies in 2025 started to embrace it in a number of different ways. Many small businesses and companies around Canada have started using AI to help with research, right? Where they will upload large amounts of documents to these AI tools and ask AI to summarize that. And sort of replacing what a junior research analyst might do in these firms. So you think about like law firms, they have large amounts of case files they may need to process before they go into court. They'll use AI to help with that. And, we've heard stories about how AI will hallucinate and make up stuff. And in some cases, they get caught if they use it without putting what we call human in the loop. At the federal government level, AI has been used for climate modeling now. It's being embedded in. We don't necessarily hear about that, but with the blizzard conditions today, for example, understanding better with AI that today may be the day you need to cancel school and you don't have to wait for the moment to come to make that decision. That could be a useful tool. So AI started being embedded in lots of different areas. Healthcare is another one, all across the country and all across the world. And I think we're at the point where AI is becoming like the internet. It's just going to be there and there's no going back anymore.
Time magazine has named the architects of artificial intelligence as its person or people of the year. What do you make of that choice?
Yeah, so they regenerated this iconic 1932 image, which is, I think, called Lunch Atop a Skyscraper, which showed construction workers who were building the skyscraper in Manhattan sitting on a steel beam, floating in midair, eating their lunch. And I think that one of the messages then was that these people were the builders of the next way of working. People started, instead of just staying in their community or working on the farm, they were going to factories or they were going to office buildings, aka skyscrapers, to do their job. And these workers sitting on the beam were just average workers, average Joes, right? Doing the thing like we all do. Now, the difference with the new image is it's these tech billionaires, primarily men, only one woman in the photo, no Canadians, and all primarily from Silicon Valley, sitting on top of that beam. There's no guardrails, which identifies the fact that AI is kind of untethered at this point in time, but they don't necessarily represent us. And they're defining the new way of work because AI is transformative, but yet do they really, think about First Nations people, Indigenous peoples across Canada, or diverse groups across Canada? That's, I think, a bit of a warning message in this Time magazine photo. So it's changing the way we work, but is it completely doing it the right way? Not necessarily.
Lastly here, Francis, what is the next frontier? What could 2026 bring?
Yeah, so one of the things that people predict is that 2026 will be the chat GPT moment for healthcare. And what I mean by that is, many places across Canada, if you have to go to the waiting room, you're waiting 10 hours sometimes in the emergency room for a doctor. Terrible situation. But with AI, the promise in 2026 is you'll have a tool at home, maybe your smartphone, you'll be able to do some triage and diagnosis at home so that when you go into the office, the emergency room, you're waiting 10 minutes instead of 10 hours. That would be amazing. And then on the other end, you think radiologists looking at x-rays. Well, instead of just looking at 10 x-rays in a day, they may be able to use AI to compare your x-ray with x-rays from a million other people and then be able to give you a personalized treatment plan quickly instead of having to wait months to see that doctor. So that's the promise. AI is going to come for healthcare in a big way in 2026. We'll have to talk a year from now to see if it happened.
Really appreciate it, Francis. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That is our CBC tech columnist, Francis Sims. Turning now to CBC's Heather Wells with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, this blizzard has blown morning plans apart for many people. Winnipeg School Division has canceled all city school buses today. That does not often happen. More than a dozen school divisions have closed their schools as the storm is shutting down highways. Manitoba Hydro dealing with outages both inside the city and south of Winnipeg. As well, flights in and out of Richardson International Airport are impacted with cancellations and delays this morning. So it's a bit of a blustery morning with plans being blown wide apart in Winnipeg today. We'll bring you the latest as the morning wears on. And the number of people on the wait list for Manitoba Public Housing is the largest it has been in 5 years. We're going to hear from one woman who is cramming her family of 6 into a 3-bedroom apartment. Some of her kids are even having to sleep on the kitchen floor. We'll hear that story and more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And as you heard Heather mention there, all school transportation for schools in Winnipeg are canceled, so all buses canceled due to these blizzard conditions. This includes Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and Winnipeg School Divisions. In terms of the list of schools we know are closed, that includes Interlake School Division, Red River Valley School School Division, Lord Selkirk Division, Prairie Rose Division, Borderland School Division, Hanover School Division, Garden Valley, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Beautiful Plains, Evergreen, Seine River, Prairie Spirit, Rolling River, Southwest Horizon, and Lakeshore School Divisions are closed. All schools within the perimeter in the Franco-Manitoban School Division are also closed. From the Brandon School Division, buses will not be operating outside the city of Brandon today. All Winnipeg school divisions, as we also heard, said that they are issuing a transportation weather warning. No school buses running in the city of Winnipeg today due to those conditions. Looking quickly at the commute, there's actually a power outage impacting intersections on Pembina between Abinogi-Mikina and Clarence. Some intersections are completely out. Treat as a four-way stop, but especially today, if you can stay indoors and stay off the roads, that is the suggestion. Highway 1 from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg is still completely closed, along with many more highways in western Manitoba. A small section of the east perimeter is also closed between Highway 1 East and Highway 15. Very poor conditions on the perimeter highway overall. Due to that orange level blizzard warning, stay off the roads if you can. You can call us with updates 204-788-3093.
On the Current.
Below you, you have so much air.
It is a 3,000-foot high sheer cliff, 3 times the height of the Eiffel Tower. And Sasha DeJulian was stuck to its face for weeks, becoming the first woman to take this extra challenging route up El Capitan, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Trump administration is sending signals it may leave CUSMA, but it is not clear if that is a sincere threat or a negotiating tactic. The North American Free Trade Agreement comes up for review in 2026, and Prime Minister Mark Carney says the U.S. president has never told him he wants to rip up the deal. The CBC's Darren Major has more.
We talked about the process for reviewing, renegotiating CUSMA. We talked about potential timelines, although we didn't settle on specific timelines for that.
Prime Minister Mark Carney met with his U.S. and Mexican counterparts on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup draw earlier this month. Carney said much of their private deliberations laid out the groundwork for the upcoming CUSMA review. Just days after that meeting, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer suggested it's possible Trump could tear up the agreement during the coming negotiations.
Could it be exited? Yeah, it could be exited. Could it be revised? Yes. Could it be renegotiated? Yes. And all of those things are on the table.
Greer tabled a report to Congress just yesterday that said Trump will only commit to keeping CUSMA if changes are made. But Carney says that the president hasn't given him any indication that he's interested in leaving the deal. Rather, the prime minister says, Trump is looking for adjustments to the trade pact.
My discussions with the President Trump, as have been President Sheinbaum's discussion with President Trump, has been there'll be a review and adjustment to CUSMA, not that there will be any leaving it entirely.
The U.S. is currently imposing hefty tariffs on a number of Canadian sectors, including steel and aluminum. Carney says addressing those levies will need to be part of the CUSMA negotiations in the new year. Darren Major, CBC News, Ottawa.
The ongoing trade dispute is forcing Canadian companies to find new markets at home and overseas. Some food producers in New Brunswick say it is something they should have done years ago. As Marc Legere reports, the threat of tariffs has been a wake-up call.
We can make up to 85 million donuts a year now, which is remarkable if you think about the fact that Ingrid Dunster started making donuts 6 at a time in a cast iron pot.
Blair Hislop owns Mrs. Dunster's, a bakery business started by a woman in her kitchen in the rural town of Sussex. It now employs more than 200 people and recently made a $3 million investment to grow sales in the U.S. The company hasn't yet faced any tariffs, but the threat forced Hislop to look for new markets. With the emphasis on buying Canadian products, come January, they'll have a coast-to-coast presence in No Frills and Costco stores.
Seeing now is more of a mindset to say, oh, you're a Canadian supplier, you have interesting facilities, you have a lot of capacity, you make nice products, that will give you a shot across the country.
Barber's is a tea and peanut butter producer up the street from Mrs. Dunster's. Company President Jeff Rose says they hired salespeople in Ontario and Quebec in response to the tariff threat. and also started exploring new markets in countries like China.
I was at a trade show, and the lineup was 30 feet for 4 days, with people excited to try our Fatso brand peanut butter.
Barber still sees growth opportunities in the U.S., a focus for growth in the last decade. But Rose says we'll focus more on other countries with an appetite for their peanut butter. Mark Legier, CBC News, Sussex, New Brunswick.
The federal and Ontario governments are expected to sign a deal today. It will reduce the regulatory burden on large projects, including the road to the Ring of Fire. Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethan-Falvey says both governments want to get things done faster.
This is an opportunity right now to work together, to get to faster permitting, to get through the red tape, to get to the yes or no for capital, to have certainty, to be going forward with multi-year plans.
The Canadian press is reporting Ottawa has agreed to eliminate work that duplicates impact assessments for large projects. That could be the final piece needed to begin building 3 roads to the mineral-rich Ring of Fire next year. 2 First Nations are currently leading environmental assessments of those roads. The European Union has committed to finance Ukraine's war efforts over the next 2 years. And this morning in Brussels, it is debating how. The majority of member states support using frozen Russian assets to provide a loan to Kiev. But there are some detractors. Crystal Gomansing has more on that.
We are going to have a very intense meeting today.
A blunt assessment from Kaja Kallas, the European Union's foreign policy chief. Leaders have a choice today: borrow against their own budget to keep Ukraine afloat, or use some of the Russian frozen assets held mostly in Belgium. Belgium has fought against the idea, fearing legal liabilities and Russian retaliation. Viktor Orban is the Prime Minister of Hungary and an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I would not like to see a European Union which is in war. To give money means war.
The issue of what the EU calls the repatriation loans runs the risk of fracturing the unity among the bloc of nations, not only in the eyes of Russia, but the U.S. President Donald Trump has been very critical of Europe recently and its ability to defend its own territory. The EU's foreign policy chief is calling for a united front for Ukraine's sake and Europe's.
Putin is banking on us to fail.
Leaders have pledged to share any legal liabilities from using the Russian frozen assets. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen still acknowledges it will be a tough day.
Most important part is that at the end of the day, we have secured the funding for Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the decision by EU leaders must make Russia feel like its desire to continue the war next year is pointless, that Ukraine has the full backing of Europe. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
The United States says it will sell a massive package of weapons to Taiwan. The arms are worth more than $10 billion, and they include military software, medium-range missiles, howitzers, and drones. The State Department says this sale is in the United States' economic and security interests, but China is slamming the move.
美方以武助独，只会引火烧身，以台制华。
A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry says this sale undermines national security and sends the wrong message to pro-independence forces. Beijing has become increasingly aggressive towards Taiwan, insisting it must reunify with the mainland. Australia plans to introduce wide-ranging reforms on hate speech. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the new legislation will make it easier to charge people promoting hate speech and violence, and will target organizations and leaders that engage in that kind of activity. On Sunday, 15 people were gunned down at a Hanukkah celebration on Bondi Beach in Sydney. Albanese has been under pressure to address fears of rising anti-Semitism in his country.
What we need to do is to move forward. We are taking action. We have taken action. We'll continue to do more. And today as well won't be the end.
A 24-year-old man is charged with 15 counts of murder in connection with the shooting. The man's father, also an alleged gunman, was killed by police. Officers say the attack was inspired by ISIS. Canadian scientists are already at the forefront of Arctic research and are expanding that expertise to the other side of the world, to Antarctica. A group of researchers are presenting early results from an all-Canadian expedition there from last March. CBC had exclusive access to that expedition. Our international climate correspondent Susan Ormiston has more.
So this is the first time we've all gotten together since we were on the ship, because everyone gets to sort of present their preliminary results.
Scientist Sandy Steffen collected snow, water, and air samples in Antarctica looking for mercury and microplastic contaminants. She found them.
The majority of the microplastics are found in fibers, so it's these little strings of fiber.
Microplastic fibers carried in the atmosphere and deposited in Antarctic waters.
No, this shows that the levels are slightly higher than what we're seeing in the Canadian Arctic water, which can be of concern.
Another scientist, Alex Normando, and a team pulled up cores of sediment a meter long from the Southern Ocean floor. Back home in Bedford, Nova Scotia, he put them through CAT scans to help map glacier retreat.
So the type of data that we're doing allows to calibrate models that can explain future warming. Based on what we know from the past, this is what we're expecting for the future.
He says Canada is having a moment with Antarctic research.
For Canada, I definitely think we are. This was the first cruise in a very long time, and now it seems like the Navy is interested in going back, so we're very hopeful that this is the building of an Antarctica program for Canada.
Building on our polar knowledge, he says, in the Canadian Arctic. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Calgary.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. We are under a level orange blizzard warning, extreme cold in the north. Stay with us here as much of southern Manitoba is waking up to intense snow and very strong winds. We are going to keep you updated on those weather conditions, on road and highway closures, school closures, and more. Also coming up, we'll hear from a woman who has spent time in a Main Street Project's former sobering center. She'll tell us, as a former meth user, what she thinks of the new 72-hour detox center.
And now that I seen the pictures of it and everything, yeah, I was kind of taken back a little because I thought it would be a little more like a comforting setting or something, but it looked like the remand to me.
We'll have those stories and more here on Information Radio. CBC's Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg and all of southern Manitoba are feeling the brunt of a blizzard that has been wreaking havoc on travel this morning. Highways are closed, including part of the south perimeter now. Winnipeg school buses aren't running this morning. And as you've been hearing from Chloe, more than a dozen rural school divisions have closed today. And the list of canceled or delayed flights in and out of Richardson International is growing. Add to all of that, Manitoba Hydro is dealing with outages, both in the south part of Winnipeg on Pembina Highway and south of the city. City plows are out. We'll bring you the latest coming up. A Winnipeg doctor was shaken after a man went on a racist tirade before the start of a menorah lighting at the Health Sciences Centre on Monday. She says the man shouted "Free Palestine" when he was done. She says she and others who were there were stunned. We're going to hear what happened coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and thank you to our team keeping very busy today. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see some shots of what it's like outside right now. You can also look out your window most likely, but that roof cam is actually, it's very interesting if you compare it to what it's usually like out there. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Corey Funk is here as our show director. But before we get to the commute, I'm going to go over our growing list of school division closures. We heard earlier today from Winnipeg School Division Superintendent Matt Henderson that all school transportation for schools in Winnipeg is canceled today. So this includes, as I mentioned, Winnipeg School Division, but also Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails. They are all, they don't have any buses. So in terms of closures, though, Interlake School Division is closed. Red River Valley, Lord Selkirk, Prairie Rose School Division, Borderland School Division, Hanover School Division, Garden Valley, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Beautiful Plains, Evergreen School Division, Seine River, Prairie Spirit, Rolling River, Southwest Horizon, and Lakeshore School Division are all closed. No schools today. For the Franco-Manitoba School Division, all schools within the perimeter are closed as well today. We also just heard earlier U of M is closed today, University of Manitoba. So all exams scheduled for today are rescheduled for Saturday, December 20th. They will be at the same time and location. At this time, exams scheduled for tomorrow will proceed as scheduled. Red River College Polytech, their Winnipeg campuses will remain closed until 11 a.m. As well, a daycare, Time to Play Early Learning Center and Windsor Park is closed today. We will keep you updated as things change here when it comes to school, university, and daycare closures. Stay with us. Next, we have a weather update. CBC weather specialist Riley Laychuk. Busy day for you already.
Yeah, already. And all because of not just the snow, Chloe, but also the winds that we're seeing across southern Manitoba. Generally speaking, looking at gusts at the moment, 60 to the high 80s across the Red River Valley and through the Interlake. So again, I mean, it probably goes without saying, but if you don't have to be out on the streets, on the highways, it's a very good idea just to stay home for at least the morning, if not the entire day today, because we are looking at things remaining very windy throughout the day. Right now, winds in Winnipeg sustained at about 60. Gusts have been around the 90 mark through the morning hours. This morning, Gimli gusts up to 65, around 70 to 80 into south central parts of the province, and into Westman, still looking at gusts at around 40 at the moment from the north. I mean, in Brandon, at least looking at radar right now, the snow has ended itself. That snow ending northwest to southeast across the south as we get through the morning hours. So Winnipeg, I mean, we're sort of on the tail end of this at the moment, but the story as we get through the rest of the day will be the winds, and that is going to carry that blizzard warning through the day with us here, not just because of the snow, but because of the very strong winds that we're looking at remaining in place as we get through the rest of the day today. So the snow itself tapers off in Winnipeg through southeastern Manitoba over the next few hours. Then we actually get into some clearing with high pressure, and what this high pressure has done is really pull in some Arctic air from into parts of northern Manitoba. So there's a cold warning in place for much of the north, looking at wind chill values this morning in that minus 45 to minus 50 range. Overnight in the south tonight, looking at temperatures close to minus 30. So that just gives you a sense of what's coming. Plus, throw on some wind into that. Still looking at winds staying at around 20, gusting 40 as we get through the afternoon hours here, Chloe. And then we get another round of this tomorrow, although not as potent, but we will get a bit more snow as we get later Friday into Saturday once again.
Okay, thank you so much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Laychuk. He will be joining us throughout the show for more weather updates on a day where we really need them. Corey Funk, you've been keeping an eye on the commute.
Yes, a growing list of highway closures this morning. The big one, Highway 1 from Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg, completely closed right now as well. Just happened within the last probably 10 minutes or so, last minute or so. Highway 75 from Winnipeg to the border, U.S. border, now closed, as well as Highway 59 from Winnipeg just above the U.S. border, also now closed. Many of the highways in northwestern, or just in just western Manitoba and north of Highway 1, also closed as well. Just you want to go to Manitoba 511 to really check those conditions. Also, one section of the perimeter highway, it's poor conditions all around on the perimeter highway, but one section is officially closed, and that is the section between on the east perimeter between Fermor and Dugald. Completely closed right now due to just these poor deteriorating conditions. And I imagine as the morning goes on, as the conditions worsen, also this list of highways closures are also going to be an issue. Also a reminder, here in the city, there is a power outage on Pembina that's affecting about 2,000 customers, says Hydro, and it's also affecting many intersections that are completely out on Pembina this morning. No idea of when that's going to be restored, but that is between Abinogi, Mikana, and Clarence, says Hydro. So heads up, it's going to be very, very slow going on Pembina with those poor conditions and a lot of intersections that are out. And that actually includes the U of M as well, which is closed because of those poor conditions. So if you do see anything else going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
The time is 7:18. You are listening to Information Radio. Our next guest has a lot to say about Manitoba's 72-hour detox center. The facility at 190 Disraeli opened this month for people intoxicated on alcohol. They will start accepting people high on drugs like meth in the new year. But there's been a lot of controversy around it, with some saying it looks more like a jail than a safe space. Yesterday, I spoke with Tammy. We're not using her last name to protect the identity of her kids who are in care. She's 41 years old and has been using meth on and off for 10 years. Tammy is now 4 months sober. Here's that conversation.
When I was living under the Maryland Bridge, I lived under there for about 3 years. And one night I was crying to my boyfriend at the time. And I just said, I want to stop this. I just want to stop this. I don't know how to stop. Like, how do you? Because I was only used to living out there, taking care of myself. And I knew I had kids, like I would go see them, but I didn't know how to stop. I was so stuck in what I was doing because it's all I knew, like my whole life. Even after the 6 kids that I had at the time, I didn't know how to get them back either because I didn't know what was what was wrong with me, actually. I just didn't know. So lost at the time.
So you realized that you wanted to stop, but you weren't sure how to or where to go. When did you find the answer to those questions?
I got COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. One night under the bridge, me and my boyfriend, we were so sick. Him, because he was doing that other stuff. And me, I had this really bad pain in my back. And I said, let's go to the hospital. So we went, and I found out I had COVID, and they put me in isolation. So when I woke up in isolation 3 days later, I was sober. And I remembered crying underneath that bridge like previously. And I was like, hey, like God answered my prayers. I thought, because I'm in an apartment. I have a TV, a phone, a bed. And I realized I just came from a tent. And it just my eyes opened because I was also sober.
Right, and this was in the hospital.
I wasn't in a hospital. I was in an apartment building
right. Okay.
on Sargent. Yeah.
And you were being isolated due to COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to stay there for 10 days and they fed me and I got a hold of my mom and I just, I said, Mom, I said I cried underneath that bridge before I came here, before I went to the hospital. I wanted to get sober and I said, I think this is my sign. I need to get sober now. I said, because I am sober and I'm in an apartment. I just came from underneath the bridge. And she says, well, do it, Tammy. Just come home after you leave there. So I did. I went back because she was keeping 2 of my kids at the time. So I went back there and I stayed sober there for over a year at the time. I had my daughter who's going to be 7 next month, her now. And I relapsed again after that, after a year of sobriety. And I went back and after about 2.5 years again of being out there on drugs, I went back home. I was just sick of it again because it actually got worse out here. Yeah, so I went back home and I stayed sober for 3 years at the time. This is my other attempt.
Right.
But it actually makes you wake up and realize a lot of things. Each time I fell, I've learned a lot, about my life, my kids, what I need to do. So I'm very hopeful for this time. And today I'm completing my 3rd program at the All Nations. And
congratulations!
Thank you.
You're very strong. I do want to ask some questions about your experience with meth, if I may.
Yes.
Drugs like meth can cause psychosis.
Yes.
Have you experienced that before?
Yes.
What was it like?
You're pretty much, for the most part, in a blackout. And when you come out of it, you're just like, feel like, oh, geez. It's kind of like, it reminds me of being in a blackout drunk, because you're, enjoying yourself because you're where you want to be at the time. But when you come out of it, you're kind of like scared because you're like, what am I doing? Because when you look around, sometimes you're somewhere. Like one time I woke up at the laundry place. People were like, oh, just leave her alone. They were just like, telling them to leave me alone. And I was like, what am I doing here? And I just walked out and I went home. So I was just like, oh, geez.
What does it feel like to kind of come out of it and see people interacting with you in that way and telling others to stay away?
It's scary because I don't know where I was going. I don't know what I was trying to do, but I know I was just in, from being high, I guess, or being sleep deprived, because when you do it, you don't want to sleep. Like my longest time of duration I stayed up was 9 days.
9 days straight?
Yes. And it felt like each day after the 4th was like, I felt more normal and normal, but I don't know if I really was, but to me, I felt that way. Yeah, so I would always try to stay up as long as I can. Then I would sleep for days and then wake up in the same thing.
What made the difference for you after you had COVID? You were in isolation. You called your mom, you said. What was next for you in your recovery? What was that help? What did that look like?
My mom is like, for me, I'm lucky. Like I have my mom. Each time I want somewhere to go, she takes me in. So that's... Like, a lot of people I know is like, I feel like I wish I could help them, but I know I can't help everybody. But like, I know everybody doesn't have somebody that would just take them in.
In terms of programs, what did you access?
Me, I got into, yesterday I graduated from Overcoming Addictions and Circle of Security. And today I will be finishing my positive discipline.
What keeps you pushing? What keeps you going to these courses and staying sober?
Like I just want my 12-year-old and my 3-year-old, like all my kids are very important to me, but some of them have a less attachment. So these ones that they're always like, they look at me and they see who I could be, I guess. And it's just, it makes me want to be that person. So I just I go and then they obviously have trust issues, but it also makes me I tell them, I have to, in order for you guys to trust me again, I have to leave. So when I come back, I'm coming back, because they're all like, oh my God. They're all freaking out. Like they're scared I'm not going to come back because it has happened, and it's the coming back because I want to show them. I want to prove, I'm in this for the long run this time. I don't want to throw it out there too much or be, but I tell myself that every day I'm in this. I want my kids back. So, yeah.
Tammy, what's your message to those who are still struggling and need help?
There's always hope, and don't give up trying, There's always somebody that will and always be there for you, because I remember a lot of times being across the street here. I'd always end up there at Junior's or something, and there was always somebody that would help me if I was hungry or something, and I never used to get that. And I think, it shows that just don't give up, There's always hope.
That was Tammy. She's a former meth user who is 4 months sober. We're not using her last name to protect the identity of her kids who are in care. Now, coming up at 7:40 on Information Radio, we'll hear how Tammy spent time at the 24-hour Main Street Project detention facility when she used alcohol, and we'll get her take on the new 72-hour detention facility for meth users. Before sports, I just want to mention a few things. A clarification for cancellations within the Francophone School Division. Voix du Nord in Thompson is still open. It is all the the schools within the perimeter that are closed. As well, we just heard 9 a.m. exams for University of Winnipeg students are canceled. At 10 a.m., an update on other exams will be released. You can check the university's website for updates. All exams are canceled at the University of Manitoba. Heading to sports with Scott Regehr. Good morning.
Hey, Chloe.
So let's start with hockey, where the Jets continue to struggle.
Yeah, playing in St. Louis for the first time since last season's playoffs. It was hardly a repeat of the dramatics we saw there. Winnipeg shut out 1-0 last night by the Blues, Chloe, and had it not been for Connor Hellebuck, that scoreline might have been even less flattering to the Jets. Scott Arniel, the head coach, was asked if the team is dealing with some mental fragility right now.
We've been kind of saying that for a while. That's part of your job. It's what you get paid for. Show up, do your job, and when we have to do it, more consistent with more bodies and more people. It doesn't get any easier. We're going into Colorado, so at the end of the day, it's just find a way individually first, come out and put your best foot forward, and then as a group, we need to be more consistent throughout the 60 minutes.
Yeah, Colorado next. They're off to one of the best regular season starts in history. They've only lost twice. That game goes tomorrow. And at the World Junior Hockey Championships, or at least in advance of them, Canada played its first warm-up game yesterday and beat Sweden 2-1.
Staying on the ice for curling, how are things going at the Canadian Open?
Well, it's been a matter of imitation being the sincerest form of flattery for Nick Edin, Chloe. A couple of years ago, the Swedish skip made a shot some consider the greatest of all time. He spun a rock like a helicopter en route to winning the World Championship. Yesterday, Switzerland's Philip Hosley tried a spinner himself against Edin. It didn't come off, and Edin remains undefeated atop his group. Meanwhile, in women's play, a couple of Canadian skips can say the same. Rachel Homan and Carrie Einarson both at 2-0. They both recently matched up at the Canadian Olympic trials, where Homan prevailed, leaving Einarson, the Gimli native, to mull over what might have been.
I was in a dark place for a few days after. It didn't really sink in until I got home on the Monday. And it's tough because you work so hard for the 4 years. And this team of mine have been through the ringer. So it was sad and it was hard, but we had a really good debrief. We just keep learning and growing as a team.
Gimli's Carrie Einarson.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports. Stay with us here on Information Radio. We will have more on school closures, traffic conditions, and the weather coming up just after your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, you're still feeling that wind in a blizzard that continues to pound Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. The blizzard ending this morning, then clearing, but the wind stays with us. Our temperature falls today to -22 this afternoon. Well, feeling the brunt of that blizzard in Winnipeg and southern Manitoba, morning plans for many have been disrupted as highways shut down, paralyzing travel for many, impacting schools and universities. CBC reporter Megan Ketchison is out in the middle of all this bluster. Megan?
Well, the wind is howling. I'm being pelted in the face by snow. It's generally not pleasant out here. The drifts are up to my knees. Now, all school transportation for schools in Winnipeg are canceled today due to the blizzard conditions. This includes Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and the Winnipeg School Division. Now, more than a dozen school divisions across Manitoba have canceled classes today because of the conditions. The University of Manitoba is closed today because of the extreme weather conditions. All exams that have been scheduled for today have been rescheduled for Saturday. Meanwhile, at the University of Winnipeg, 9 a.m. exams have been canceled, and watch their website for updates for exams later today. At RRC Polytechnic, Winnipeg campuses will remain closed until at least 11 a.m. On the perimeter between Fermor and Dugald, it is closed because of deteriorating weather conditions. Now, on the highways, the Trans-Canada is closed from Winnipeg west to the Saskatchewan border. Highway 59 is also closed, along with a number of highways through the western parts of Manitoba and the Interlake. Out at the airport, there's a long list of closures and cancellations. If you have a flight, check with the Winnipeg Airports Authority website or or contact your airline. And there are a number of hydro outages. There's a large swath on Pembina Highway, on either side of Pembina Highway, from about McGillivray south to Fort Richmond, and then south of the city, including areas of St. Adolphe, Niverville, St. Agathe, St. Germain, and Grand Point. Hydro does hope to have the power restored in those areas around 9 o'clock this morning. So buses are delayed as well within the city, and I have seen snow plows out, but it's a miserable drive and walk out there this morning. Reporting live, Megan Ketchison, CBC News.
Thanks so much, Megan. That is a massive impact the storm is having on all of southern Manitoba. You can get the very latest on our website this morning. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba. A Winnipeg doctor was shaken after a man went on a racist tirade before the start of a menorah lighting at the Health Sciences Centre on Monday. The doctor says the man shouted "Free Palestine" when he was done. She says she and others were stunned by the profane anti-Semitic insults. Now, CBC is not naming her because she fears for her safety.
It took us all about a good 5-10 minutes to collect ourselves. I personally, after I went to go get security and tried to wave down the police, actually had to excuse myself to go have a cry in the bathroom.
Now, the event at the Health Sciences Centre was to celebrate Hanukkah. It happened a day after 15 people were killed during a Hanukkah celebration in Australia. Winnipeg police are investigating. The number of people on the wait list for Manitoba public housing is the largest it's been in 5 years. Savannah Huard is cramming her family of 6 into a 3-bedroom apartment. She has been on a wait list for a larger place for almost 6 years. Huard says 2 of her children are sleeping in the kitchen because there's nowhere else they can fit their beds.
It's a big open space, and now that my daughter is going to be 12, almost a teen, she now needs the privacy thing, and that is not in here at all. So it's affecting her quite a bit.
Tenants and advocates say the province needs to increase the public housing supply. Only 51 public housing units have been built since the NDP took power in 2023. The housing minister says they're building as fast as they can, fighting a backlog from the previous government. A domestic violence case was stayed this year because it took too long to get to trial. It is one of 15 Manitoba cases thrown out since the Supreme Court set a presumptive ceiling on how long criminal cases can drag on. But hundreds of provincial court proceedings are still taking just as long. Chris Gamby at Manitoba's Criminal Defense Lawyers Association says the whole legal system is underfunded.
We don't have enough Crown prosecutors. We don't have enough courtrooms. We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough court staff. We don't have enough defense lawyers. And stuff like this will continue to happen until something different is done.
The province says it has hired more prosecutors and support staff to address heavy workloads and delays. 35 Crown attorneys have been added since the government took office. Well, the trade deal known as CUSMA is up for review in the new year. In recent weeks, Donald Trump's chief trade negotiator floated the possibility the U.S. president could walk away from the North American trade agreement. But Prime Minister Mark Carney tells CBC Trump hasn't given him any indications he's interested in tearing up that deal. You can hear the latest national and international news on World Report at 8. A Winnipeg-born goalie shut out the Winnipeg Jets in St. Louis last night. Joel Hofer stopped all 24 shots, lifting his Blues to a 1-0 win over Winnipeg. Jets head coach Scott Arniel admits these losses are frustrating.
At the end, there's frustration for sure, but at the end of the day, it's, we got ourselves in a 1-goal game on the road, and you have to find a way to score goals. You can't win games without scoring goals.
One Winnipeg player who had a good game, Connor Hellebuck, stopping 25 shots. The Jets will continue their 3-game road trip tomorrow in Denver. You can find the latest on the blizzard and its impacts on our website, as well as other Manitoba news. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And speaking of weather and updates, I've got a long list of school closures here for the province. We will start with the list of school divisions that are closed. We've got Interlake, Red River Valley, Lord Selkirk, Prairie Rose, Borderland, Hanover, Garden Valley, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Beautiful Plains, Evergreen, Seine River, Prairie Spirit, Rolling River, Southwest Horizon, Lakeshore School Division, and all schools within the perimeter for the Franco-Manitoba School Division. That does not include the school there in Thompson. It's only schools within the perimeter here in Winnipeg. We do know that all school transportation for schools in Winnipeg is canceled today due to these blizzard conditions. So this includes buses to Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and Winnipeg School Division's buses are canceled. Brandon School Division buses are also canceled for outside the city of Brandon for today. We heard from the University of Manitoba. The school is completely closed. All exams for today have been rescheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, December 20th. At the same time and location. At this time, exams scheduled for tomorrow will proceed as scheduled. For RSC Polytech, Winnipeg campuses, they will remain closed until 11 a.m. today. The 9 a.m. exams for U of W students, University of Winnipeg, are canceled. An update is set to come out at 10 a.m. regarding future exams and closures. You can check the university's website for updates. A lot going on out there. Riley Lachuk, you are looking at this system that's making its way through the province. What are these next few hours like?
Well, Chloe, staying very windy as we get through the next few hours, really throughout the day across much of the south, looking at things staying very, very windy. So expect blowing snow to be an issue really right throughout the day today. Right now in Winnipeg, minus 18, winds out of the northeast, sustained at about 60 at the moment. So that gives you a sense that just how strong the wind is blowing right now. Gusts outside the city, Steinbach, Winkler around 65 kilometers an hour. Gimli gusts at the moment up to 65, close to 80 in Portage la Prairie. So you're seeing a bit of a theme with these very strong wind gusts that we're seeing this morning, and hence why we've seen some of these highway closures. Just simply, I mean, I've been asked a few times already this morning, how much did it snow last night? I don't know, because it's blowing as soon as it hits the ground. So I don't know if we'll get a very good, accurate measure at how much snow actually fell. Just know that any travel outside the city in particular is going to be very treacherous today, near zero visibility at times. Even though we are seeing the snow start to taper off, I mean, it's finished in Brandon in the southwestern corner of the province, still have a little bit to go yet, and then we get into some very cold air in behind this, and this is going to feel some very cold Arctic air, not just in northern Manitoba, but in the south as we get through the night tonight. So winds will remain an issue throughout the day, then we start to see things easing and some very cold conditions ahead of the next round that comes as we get through tomorrow into Saturday. This one not as potent, maybe another 4 or 5 centimeters pretty generally across the south.
All right. Thank you for keeping us updated, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. He will be back on the show in around half hour's time. Corey Fung, show director, you're here with some road closures.
Yes, road closures, and well, we'll start with the highways. Highway 1 from Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg completely closed, as well Highway 75. The entirety of Highway 59 essentially totally closed now too. That's a new one just added to the list. Highway 6 also now heading north of Winnipeg, also closed. If you're on a highway in western Manitoba, north of the highway number 1, chances are it's also closed. Now there's more sections of the perimeter highway that are closed now. Pretty much the entirety of perimeter highway north is now also closed, pretty much from Highway 1 west to the Highway 1 east, all going north, completely closed right now due to those poor conditions. You just want to avoid the highways, honestly, this morning. That's the brass tacks of it. It's really bad out there, really dangerous, really slippery. Here in the city, a few stuck buses we got calls about. One on the Nairn overpass heading east. The caller said that apparently traffic has just been stuck there. The bus is blocking the entirety of eastbound Nairn on the Nairn overpass. So heads up there. As well, we just heard about another stuck bus right outside the Fairmont there on that section just before Portage and Main. So that's going to be blocking things as well. A stuck bus there too. Also, there's that power outage on in the Fort Richmond area that has a section on Pembina between Abino-Jamaica and Clarence. power is out there. It's also impacting the U of M. So a lot of just completely out intersections, including crosswalks. We heard from a caller that there's people trying to cross still despite crosswalks being out. So very dangerous. Be careful. Look out for walkers if you actually are on the roads there too. Be very careful. Just avoid the roads this morning is what it comes down to. If you have any other updates for us, you can give us a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
And we're hearing from the city of Winnipeg this morning that snow clearing and ice control crews are out there responding to the ongoing weather system. They say they've been clearing main roads since around 1 a.m. And started plowing sidewalks and pathways at 7 a.m. Those plows will continue throughout the morning as blowing snow continues to cause issues. Today's garbage and recycling collection has been canceled, and the following waste management facilities are closed for the day. Landfill at Brady Road and the 4R Winnipeg depots. Corey Funk is back.
I just got off the phone with Matt Henderson, superintendent. All metro schools, all schools of all school divisions within the perimeter are now closed. Staff do not report. Just heard from Matt Henderson on the commuter line. So, yeah, all schools closed in Winnipeg. They just made the call right now.
All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
We will continue keeping you updated. But as Corey said, all Winnipeg schools are closed today. That call just coming in. Well, heading into our next story, earlier on the show, we heard from Tammy. She's 41 years old and a former meth user. We're not using her last name to protect the identity of her kids who are in care. Tammy has experienced homelessness, alcoholism, and has used meth on and off for years. She is now 4 months sober. Before 7:30, Tammy told us about her ongoing recovery from meth addiction. And then next, we talked about the new 72-hour detox facility, which will begin accepting people in meth psychosis in the new year. I began by asking Tammy about her first experience with the drug.
I was in my late 20s at the time, and at the time I was an alcoholic. So I was always hanging around with the same people, and we went from like, one thing from another, and then that stuff came around at the time, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll try it, So I did, and that's how that started, and from then it didn't end for a good long 10 years.
What did it? What did the addiction feel like, if you can describe it?
The addiction is. Like at first, it's, that it's like you just want to do something, but after you need to do it. Otherwise, you get sick. You need to, like every day, you just need to, or else you'll feel sick. Or for me, like I was hiding the pain of my life, and I was trying to numb them out. So I just, every time I got sober, I would just automatically start crying. So I would go to get high, so I get high again. And then I get sick, so I'm like, I need to get high. So it was an ongoing years. Like every single day I made money for drugs.
I understand that you've been to Main Street Project's Protective Care Unit, which is often referred to as the drunk tank. Mm-hmm. Can you share what that was like?
Cold. Like when I was there, I was in my drinking days, so I would always end up there. And I also went there to try and get help myself because I wanted to quit drinking at the time. But when I wake up there, it's just like, it's kind of like you feel like just low, like, yeah. Like you just want to get out. Keep it thing,
This was it was a 24-hour space. Yeah. Do you remember how long you stayed? Was it the 24 hours?
I think they said I was there for the 12 hours.
12,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the new 72-hour detox center. It's a 20-room facility at 190 Disraeli Freeway. What are your thoughts on it? Just regarding your previous experience and how the space might have played a role in your life back then.
Like when I first heard about it, when I heard, they get this space for 72 hours for people, I was like, oh wow, like finally, that's great. Like to hear something new that opened up for people that need help, because there's a lot of people out there that want help. I know that. Like, they were people I know, and it was hard for us out there. And the 72-hour thing, like, when I heard about it without seeing it at all first, I was like, wow, And now that, like, I seen the pictures of it and everything, I was thinking, oh, wow. Yeah, I was kind of taken back a little because I thought it would be a little more like a comforting setting or something, but it looked like the remand to me. Yes. But at the same time, like 3 days is enough time, because when I woke up 3 days later in the isolation, it helps you get back to a clear mind. So if somebody can have that time to, come back to their clear mind and know that, they were sober for that long, or they got to be sober for that long, it could really help somebody, help people.
So the idea of it being 72 hours compared to 24, that makes sense to you?
Yeah. Yes, it did.
What difference do you think it makes having the 3 days instead of the 1 day?
Well, the 1 day is when I think, like, for meth, and like it's the 1 day is you're just so sick that you're at a very vulnerable part where you're like, I need to get it, I need to get it, I need to get it,
Right, so if you would be released after 24 hours.
Yeah, you would just be, go get it, because you're just in that very vulnerable, like, your body is saying, feed me, and, and you're just like, okay. But after 3 days, you're well rested, your body's kind of down, because when I quit, it took like 4 days of me sleeping, and I was okay.
Was Tammy, who is 4 months sober from meth. We're not using her last name to protect the identity of her kids who are in care. If you missed the first part of that conversation with Tammy, you can find it on the CBC Listen app. There is also more to that second part. So if you want the full conversation, just search Information Radio on the CBC Listen app. Still to come on the show, a curling club says they'll have no choice but to close their doors if the city goes through with a proposed apartment complex on their parking lot. We'll talk to the club ahead of today's city council vote on the subdivision and rezoning bylaw for the sites. We are hearing that all schools in Metro Winnipeg are closed. That includes Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and the Winnipeg School Division are all closed. All schools, the only school open in Division Scolaire Franco-Manitoban is Voix du Nord in Thompson. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. If you're on the wait list for public housing in Manitoba, you're likely going to be waiting a long time. A 2023 I-Team investigation found thousands of people were sitting on the wait list while many units sat empty. The I-Team decided to check on those numbers again, and the number of people on the wait list has grown even larger. In fact, it's the longest it's been in 5 years. Tenants and advocates say this means many can't get housing or are stuck in homes that are unsafe or too small for their families. I-Team reporter Michelle Allen has the story. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what made you want to look into this?
As some of you may remember, the I-Team did an investigation into Manitoba's public housing system in 2023. We found that there were thousands of people waiting for housing, while thousands of Manitoba housing units sat empty. So 2 years ago, we spoke to this woman named Savannah Hoard, and she had a family of 6 crammed into a 3-bedroom apartment while they were waiting for a bigger place. We checked in with her a few weeks ago, and she said she's now been on the wait list for almost 6 years, and nothing's changed. She's had to set up makeshift rooms in the kitchen for her daughters.
I did have curtains up to divide it, and when housing came in here, they told me it was a fire hazard and I had to remove them. So now it's a big open space, and now that my daughter is going to be 12, almost a teen, she now needs the privacy thing, and that is not in here at all. So it's affecting her quite a bit.
Why has she been on the wait list for so long?
We don't know exactly. We know the wait list is long, and we know that the amount of people on it is the most it's been in the last 5 years. At the time of our previous investigation in 2023, the wait list was just over 5,000 people long, but now there's over 7,500 people on it, and Howard is still waiting. She says she thinks the system is just overwhelmed by need because many families are struggling to afford market rent right now and seeking out public housing support.
I think inflation has definitely caused that. People can't afford to live anymore. Everything's costing way too much money. So, you're not making enough where you can afford your $2,000 a month rent plus your bills plus, your children. So people are forced to go into less fortunate options.
She thinks there's a lot of demand specifically for the larger units that are big enough to fit families with multiple kids, and that she assumes people probably stay in them a long time once they're there, even if their kids grow up and move out.
I have 6 people in a 3-bedroom, and I can't even get into a 4-bedroom where I could maybe have my 2 younger ones share. I just don't understand. So I really think that they should be checking in on tenants and seeing if any of their situations have changed and move them accordingly if that's the case.
What does this say about the state of social housing in the province?
Well, in our last investigation 2 years ago, we found more units were sold off than built under the Tories. So under the NDP, since they took power in 2023, 51 new public housing units were added. But the experts we spoke to say that's not good enough. Shauna McKinnon is a professor and the chair of the Department of Urban and Inner City Studies at the University of Winnipeg. She says the province hasn't invested enough in Manitoba housing for many, many years. So now we don't have enough. And the social housing we do have is in serious disrepair. McKinnon says the current government has promised to build more, but she's yet to see that happen at a sufficient scale.
They've committed to more social housing units, but we're not seeing any data that shows that there's been any completion. So if they're saying 51, that's great, but I actually am seeing less than that even. So it's a problem. We're not really seeing actual any outcomes from the commitment.
Michelle, the Premier promised to end chronic homelessness. How does that plan factor into all of this?
Well, Chloe, McKinnon says the system was already just overwhelmed with the amount of people needing housing, and the province then promised in January to move 700 people out of encampments and into housing. She agrees that getting unhoused people housed should be a priority, but if there isn't enough housing to go around and investments are going into building transition homes, it means families like the Howards, or those in even worse scenarios, sometimes have a long wait to get their turn. Since January, 123 people have been moved out of encampments, and the majority are living in transitional housing. The province has acquired over 300 units of this particular type of supportive housing. At the same time, another 56 people, the ones the province say live in encampments and in long-term emergency shelters, have moved straight into Manitoba housing units.
It's difficult because absolutely right now, especially as we approach winter, folks who are homeless need to be, a priority. And so, we all get that. But the problem is when there's not enough supply, there are a whole bunch of other people looking for housing that may not be homeless, but they're living in, really deplorable conditions, for example. And so if we are trying to deal with the existing supply at the level it is and get everybody into housing, and we prioritize folks who are homeless, that means somebody's not going to get housing. It's sort of like musical chairs, right? There's only so many chairs, and who gets to somebody doesn't get a chair.
What did the government say it's doing to support people in need of public housing?
We spoke to Housing Minister Bernadette Smith, and she says that the previous government also underinvested. So she says the NDP is having to play catch up a bit.
Under the previous government, these folks were left to their own accord. Previous government was selling off housing. It took minutes to sell. It takes years to build. It's going to take, us quite some time. There's a lot of work to be done, but we're very committed to doing the work and getting people the supports that they need to stay successfully housed, but we're also preventing folks from becoming homeless.
Is that going to be enough to address the housing crisis?
We had that question too. So we asked McKinnon, who says she doesn't think so. She says she wants to see the current government do more to increase supply. She agreed that housing can't be built overnight, but she says that new builds aren't the only way out of this problem.
I always hear this issue around, well, it takes a long time, and so we need to be patient. But there are other ways of adding to the supply. And so that's another thing that we're not hearing. Manitoba Housing could be purchasing existing buildings and making those accessible for low-income households, including people who are homeless, but also other people who need housing.
We'll be taking a closer look at Manitoba public housing and more stories that we'll be releasing in the coming weeks.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Michelle Allen is a reporter with CBC Manitoba's I-Team, and she'll have more on this story tonight on the CBC News at 6. You can also read about it on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Heather Wells is here with news headlines.
Good morning. And what a morning it's been. That blizzard continues to blow, shutting down highways, impacting travel inside the city. We can tell you because travel has been so impacted. For the first time since April of 2022, we have a bona fide snow day in the city of Winnipeg. Most school divisions in Winnipeg are just letting us know now there is no school today. Buses are not running within the city, and now schools, we are being told, are shutting down. The city of Winnipeg says its crews are hard at work clearing streets, sidewalks, and pathways. Plows have been out since 1 this morning, and they say they will replow through the morning to manage all the blowing snow. Sidewalk plowing also started around 7 this morning. And today, don't put out your garbage. Garbage and recycling collection has been canceled because of this blizzard. We'll have the latest on the blizzard for you coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells, and we do have a major commute update. The Perimeter Highway is now completely closed, and almost every highway leading to and from Winnipeg is also closed. Right now, the only highway open is the number 1 east from Winnipeg to the Ontario border. There's also lots of other closures on highways across southern Manitoba. Please stay off the highways if you can. We also have that hydro outage on Pembina between Abinogi, Mikina, and Clarence. It's caused some intersections to be completely out. Treat that as a 4-way stop and be very careful out there on the roads. We will have more updates on your commute and on weather conditions as the show continues. A reminder, all schools within Winnipeg now closed. No buses, no classes. The U of M is also closed. All exams that were scheduled for today are rescheduled for Saturday, December 20th. 9 a.m. exams for the U of W students are also canceled. An update will be coming shortly for schools there. Stay with us for all the blizzard updates.
On Q.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. The actor Wagner Moura was born at the tail end of a military dictatorship in Brazil, where he would often hear stories about a time when artists were censored or arrested.
The first thing that they do is they go after colleges and artists.
He'll tell you how he's channeling all of that into his new role.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
It is a 3,000-foot-high sheer cliff, 3 times the height of the Eiffel Tower. And Sasha DeJulian was stuck to its face for weeks, becoming the first woman to take this extra challenging route up El Capitan. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Trump administration is making new demands of its biggest trading partners. It is giving Canada and Mexico a list of concessions it wants in the next version of their 3-way trade agreement. But it is not clear the U.S. is going to stay in CUSMA. As Katie Simpson reports, Washington is making these demands as Canadian officials push to keep the trading relationship intact.
It is in the interest of the United States to keep free and open trade with Canada.
As Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman was appearing on American cable news to make the case to keep CUSMA. Her counterpart, the top U.S. trade official, was submitting a report to Congress listing off the complaints the Trump administration has about the 3-way trade agreement, outlining the changes Donald Trump wants to see in order for the U.S. to remain in the pact, including specific demands of Canada. Trump wants provincial bans on the sale of American American alcohol to end. He wants it to be easier for farmers to sell American dairy products into Canada. And he has problems with the Online News Act and Online Streaming Act, which American tech giants don't like. These issues will be discussed as part of the CUSMA review, which begins next year.
I think it can survive because it's the right thing for all three countries, but it's the right thing for America. Canada is your biggest customer. You sell more to us than China, the UK, France, and Japan combined. So you put all those countries together, that's 1.7 billion people. We're 40 billion people, and we buy more from American manufacturers than all of them combined.
Canada has already indicated it would like to stay in the agreement and is open to making improvements to the deal. It's also demanding the U.S. end punishing tariffs hitting a wide range of Canadian industries. But there are no signs Trump is willing to budge. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Prime Minister Mark Carney will host a virtual meeting with the country's premiers later today. But first, he and Ontario Premier Doug Ford will address the media and take part in a signing ceremony. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. Janice, what are they signing?
Marcia, Doug Ford's government reached an agreement with First Nations leaders earlier this fall, laying out what Northern Indigenous communities would receive in return for their cooperation to build new road infrastructure, leading to the rich critical mineral resources in Ontario's Ring of Fire. At the time, the Ontario Premier called on the federal government to get out of the way and not duplicate the province's approval processes. Today, he's expected to sign a deal with the Prime Minister to facilitate just that, a one project, one review approach to resource development from now on. Ontario's Finance Minister, Peter Bethlen-Falvey.
We can't spend years and years and years on process because capital has disappeared. And when capital disappears, nothing gets done.
After that public event, the Prime Minister and the Premier of Ontario moved behind closed doors for the First Minister's meeting. What's on that agenda?
First Minister's talks are now dominated by two discussions that go hand in hand, developing major projects to boost the economy and strategizing against the latest trade threats from the Trump administration. BC Premier David Eby told reporters yesterday he's been in talks with federal officials to speed up new investments to improve trade infrastructure in the West, a need that's come into sharp focus after the decision by Saskatchewan potash exporter Nutrien to invest in a new rail port facility in Washington State instead of BC.
If they have $60 billion to take an hour off of the train ride between Montreal and Ottawa, then I am sure we can reach agreement on moving goods and people around British Columbia without difficulty.
Tensions have also surfaced over whether there are now two sets of environmental regulations in this country, a special deal for Alberta following its recent MOU, and stricter standards on things like methane emissions and electricity generation for every other province.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The Alberta clipper that caused chaos in parts of the prairies yesterday is moving east. Blizzard conditions with gusty winds and near zero visibility are expected for southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg. The Trans-Canada remains closed to the Saskatchewan border. The University of Manitoba has cancelled exams for the day. Dozens of schools are closed. In the northern parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, people can expect it to feel like minus 50 with the wind chill. The United Nations warns the clock is ticking on a number of aid groups operating in the Gaza Strip. Israel could kick them out by the end of the year if they don't comply with new registration rules. And the timing could be disastrous for Palestinians still cleaning up from last week's rainstorm. Rafi Boujikanyan has more.
It comes down on us when it rains, says Ramadan Abu Saif, pointing to the partially caved-in ceiling of his home in Gaza. You can see how the bombing damaged the house, he says. The ceiling was damaged during the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and it collapsed further when rainstorm Byron swept through late last week. He and other Palestinians in Gaza staged a protest yesterday, demanding mobile homes to replace those bombed-out buildings or tents they receive for shelter. But aid groups already face restrictions, and those could tighten in a couple of weeks.
It is very devastating that
Jolien Feldwag is with the Cooperative for Assistance and Relief Everywhere. CARE has been in Gaza since the 50s. It, like countless other organizations, now faces a December 31st deadline for a re-registration process. It would force them to submit all staff names to Israel for vetting. The UN warns the system relies on vague, arbitrary and highly politicized criteria. Feldwag says CARE has tried registering but does not have a response yet. If it does not get the nod, she says it will slow aid delivery.
we have warehouses full in Cairo.
Israel says the new process is necessary to root out Hamas members among aid organizations. It says more than 20 NGOs have already registered, and it's making every effort to make sure aid gets to civilians instead of Hamas. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Jerusalem.
European farmers are driving their tractors into Belgium, protesting a proposed free trade deal with South American countries. They are blasting music, blocking the roads, and setting off fireworks outside an EU leaders' meeting. Police have fired tear gas and water cannons at the demonstration. The farmers say they're worried this trade deal will undercut their livelihoods. The EU is hammering out an agreement with the countries known as Mercosur. That's Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. The deal would progressively remove duties on almost all goods traded between the two blocs over the next 15 years. U.S. President Donald Trump is promising Americans an economic boom like they have not seen before. But the year-end televised speech from the U.S. president comes as some polls suggest he is taking a popularity hit, largely because of the rising cost of living. Willie Lowry joins us from Washington. And Willie, go over Trump's speech for us.
In many ways, this was a classic Trump speech. The U.S. president speaking for just 18 minutes, relatively brief for him, but spending much of that time railing against the Biden administration, blaming the former president for much of what he believes is wrong with the U.S.
I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans.
Trump kept the focus primarily on domestic issues, though he touted his foreign policy achievements, mostly helping to end or quiet conflicts in the Middle East and elsewhere. The speech felt harried at times as he rushed through his list of achievements and sought to convince Americans that the economy was back on track.
So how do some of these claims measure up in the real world?
Yeah, so the president insisted that inflation has stopped. It hasn't. It's still hovering at just over 3%. That's actually a slight increase from the previous month. He praised tariffs, crediting them for revitalizing the country's economy and bringing in what he said was $18 trillion in investments. That number is hard to verify. He also said he had completely closed the southern border. He hasn't, though illegal immigration has significantly slowed under Trump. This late-night address comes as President Trump's approval ratings have dropped to below 40%, according to several polls. He's hoping that by speaking directly to the people, he can convince them his first year has been a success.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry reporting from Washington. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Manitoba, it is a snowy and windy one out there. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. We will continue to bring you all of your winter storm updates. Much of southern Manitoba still under an orange level blizzard warning. Seeing intense snow and very strong winds in the north, extreme cold. We'll continue to update you on weather conditions, road closures, school closures, and more. Also still to come, the ongoing dispute between the city and Granite Curling Club is still brewing, and the club is now fearful they'll have to close. Stay with us. CBC's Heather Wells is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg and all of southern Manitoba are feeling the brunt of this blizzard wreaking havoc on travel this morning. Highways are closed, including the perimeter. The entire perimeter highway has shut down, along with Highway 75 out of Winnipeg, Highway 59 out of Winnipeg, the Trans-Canada between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. All are closed right now. Big delays if you're heading to the airport. For the first time since April of 2022, City of Winnipeg schools are closed, transit delays, and no garbage pickup today. All of this because of this big blizzard that is pounding Winnipeg right now. We'll bring you the latest coming up. As well, a Winnipeg doctor was shaken after a man went on a racist tirade before the start of a menorah lighting at the Health Sciences Centre. It happened on Monday. We're going to hear more from that Winnipeg doctor coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
As Heather just said there, all schools in the Metro Winnipeg area are closed today. That includes school divisions like Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and the Winnipeg School Division. Classes are canceled. Schools are closed. Some more divisions that are also closed today: Interlake, Red River Valley, Lord Selkirk, Prairie Rose, Borderland, Hanover, Garden Valley, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Beautiful Plains, Evergreen, Seine River, Prairie Spirit, Rolling River, Southwest Horizon, Lakeshore, and Western School Division are all closed. We heard from the Brandon School Division that buses will not be operating outside the city of Brandon. And in terms of universities, U of M, University of Manitoba, is closed with all exams scheduled for today rescheduled for Saturday. That's December 20th at the same time and location. At this time, exams scheduled for tomorrow at the U of M will proceed as scheduled. At Red River College Polytech, all Winnipeg campuses will remain closed today until 11 a.m. According to the University of Winnipeg, 9 a.m. exams are canceled. An update will come at around 10 a.m. regarding future exams. Students are directed to check the university's website for more updates. Lots going on out there. CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk is tracking all of it. What are we seeing?
Well, Chloe, we're into the phase where we're more dealing with the wind as opposed to the falling snow itself. I mean, the snow, for the most part, wrapping up across much of the south already. Still a bit falling in Winnipeg and southeastern Manitoba, minus 18 right now. But the story today will certainly be the wind. North at 54 in the city right now, gusting to 78. If maybe you thought, it's a bit windy, I can chance it, I would strongly advise you not to stay off the roads, particularly outside the city as we get through the day today, because we are looking at this wind through the Red River Valley and the Interlake staying with us as we get through much of the day today. So wind gusts right now still between about 60 and 75 or so across much of south central Manitoba into the Interlake right now. Portage seeing gusts of 72, just about 70 in Gimli, in the 60s closer to the international border. So some very strong winds kicking up all of this snow that fell through the overnight hours. We are on the very edges of this wrapping up in Winnipeg right now, already wrapping up to the west. But like I said, the story will be the winds, and that's what's carrying this orange level blizzard warning through the morning hours. It has been dropped to the west, still in place for the Red River Valley and the Interlake, and in behind all this, Chloe, some very cold air as we get into the night tonight.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. Thank you to the whole team keeping us updated and moving here. Sophia Peralta Barone is helping out with the commuter line this morning. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. And Corey Funk, show director. You've been trying to wrap your head around all of these closures and issues in the city.
Yeah, Sophia's been taking lots and lots of calls on the computer line. Thanks for everyone who called. A couple things to keep an eye out for. Of course, Pembina, there's been a power outage there impacting about 2,000 customers, says Hydro. And that's actually impacted the section of road, intersections between Abnojimikana and Clarence. A lot of intersections between that area are actually completely out, including crosswalks. So be really, really careful. Treat those as four-way stops. Very backed up there, as you can imagine. Also got some calls at the underpass at Main Main and Higgins. A minivan is in the median lane. It's blocking northbound Main as well. Pembina and Markham, there's also something stopping about all three lanes. Might have something to do with that outage as well. And at Grant on William Parkway, there is a bus. It's stuck turning northbound. It's hard to get around that. We also heard about a stuck bus as well right in front of the Fairmont, going westbound towards Portage and Maine. So look out for that, as well as the Nairn Bridge westbound, another stuck bus blocking eastbound Nairn on the overpass there. That was blocking things entirely last we heard. So completely backed up from callers. So thanks to everyone who's called this morning. And you can keep those calls coming, and we'll have more updates on the highways, which, as you heard, many of which are closed, including the perimeters, and a lot's going in and out of Winnipeg. If you give me a call if you see anything else, Sophia will answer 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
And speaking of the commute, a number of highways are still closed across the province. Almost every highway leading out of Winnipeg, including the perimeter, is closed. One of our camera people, Jason Empson, is actually currently stuck on the perimeter as we speak. He's been sending us photos, and you can see them if you're watching on our YouTube live stream. A number of highways in Western Manitoba and the Interlake are also closed. Sergeant Paul Maneg is with the RCMP D Division, and he joins us this morning. Hello.
Hey, good morning.
So what kind of issues have the RCMP been responding to on highways this morning?
Well, kind of discussed with the amount of road closures, we have probably dozens of people that get us have hit the ditch. I'm not seeing actually any collisions between vehicles. It just seems to be everyone has basically lost control, entered the ditch, and then now they're stuck or stranded. So yeah, with the amount of snow that's fallen, travel is definitely going to be very difficult this morning.
What's the right choice? Say if you were on the highway, you're traveling, and then you find out that it's closed. What should you do in that situation?
Well, ideally, you got two options. Is if you're closer to your destination, you're going to have to keep going to where you're going, or if you're in a position to turn around and return home, ideally you want to get off these roads. It's usually, like they say, with that wind being almost 80 kilometers an hour, visibility is next to nothing, especially out when you're outside the city here on the highways. Visibility is everything when it comes to driving safely.
Is there a penalty for driving on a closed highway?
Yes, in Manitoba, there is now technically a Highway Traffic Act offense for driving on a closed road, which I believe is $200. So we do have the discretion if we want to lay that charge. But the important part is for, obviously getting people to safety first before we look at any enforcement provisions there.
What's your main message for Manitobans this morning and continuing into this blizzard?
Easy. Stay home. Like I say, highways are closed pretty much all over southern Manitoba. There's just no reason to be out there. If we had no winds today, this probably would be one of those, beautiful winter days with the, right around, the minus 15 to minus 20 mark. But it's like with, gusts of 80 kilometers an hour. It just meant with the amount of fresh snow down, it's just that snow is getting picked up and visibility is next to nothing. So just people need to, it's a snow day, take advantage of it and stay home.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was Sergeant Paul Maneg. He is with the RCMP D Division. And for a list of all the highway closures and that map, go to Manitoba 511. We also have more information on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Just how does a plant become illegal? Terry O'Reilly is one toke over the line, leaving no stone unturned, exploring the history of cannabis and how it's marketed. From high-end retail stores now selling expensive paraphernalia to celebrities who have their own brands. On Under the Influence, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
The time is 8:20. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. If you want updates on school closures, highway closures, and conditions, head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. The Granite Curling Club says it may have to close its doors for good unless the city comes up with a new parking plan. The club is now pleading with City Council to vote no later today on a subdivision and rezoning bylaw for 22 Granite Way. That's the site of a proposed development for a new apartment complex. But the Curling Club says that development located beside their club will take up many parking spots used by its members. Last month, the Manitoba Municipal Board said a permit could only be issued to build the complex if the Curling Club's concerns about parking were addressed. This would have given the Curling Club the power to veto the project, but a new report found that the City of Winnipeg can ignore the decision from a provincial board. Here's what Mayor Scott Gillingham had to say at the time.
Well, again, the legal team has done their analysis on the municipal board and this ruling that they made, and has made the determination that the municipal board went beyond its scope. And so what we have before us today is a decision that we have to make. But part of what was talked about in the municipal board ruling was the parking. And we're saying we're not ignoring that. In fact, we're going to have our staff establish a new lease with the Granite Curling Club, and in that lease, where it should be, deal with the parking matter.
That was Mayor Scott Gillingham. Our next guest is Christian Pierce, the board secretary for the Granite Curling Club. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what do you think about what you just heard from the mayor there, saying the city intends to work with the Curling Club on parking?
Well, I think the city's trying to move the goalposts first and then say they're going to give us a plan. It's unlikely the city has gotten independent legal advice on this issue, because it's crystal clear what the city is doing is in contravention of the city charter and the provincial legislation.
In your press release that we received, you mentioned that your board, quote, tried every avenue they could to get a meeting with the city, unquote. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. So after the first reading in February, we reached out to meet with the city. We had one initial meeting to talk about a new lease on March 4th. And since then, we've reached out a dozen times at least to try to meet and resolve this issue and not have it go to the municipal board hearing, and certainly not have it where the city is now trying to force this through. We would love to get in a room with them. We've reached out again. I'm hopeful that we will, but the Granite is waiting for that invitation.
Now, we did ask the city about this, and in a statement, a spokesperson writes, quote, city staff weren't able to meet with the Granite Curling Club leading up to the Manitoba Municipal Board hearing, as the matter was pending a decision from the board. Staff plan to meet with the club to discuss a new lease once council has made a decision on the proposed development for 22 Granite Way. Were you made aware that this would be the process?
We heard in, I believe, June that they didn't want to meet while the municipal board hearing was still underway. Now, any two parties can negotiate and come to a resolution before that, but that was the position they took on that. Now, following the municipal board recommendation being released, we reached out to meet, and they said they need to wait, to see what they're going to do. But now what they've decided is that they're just going to ignore the municipal board altogether and try to get this rezoning through. So I don't know, it seems disingenuous that they're trying to move the goalposts, as I said, and then they're going to come up with a plan. They should be coming up with a plan first.
Your big worry here is that the loss of these parking spaces would potentially lead to the closure of the Granite Curling Club. Why is that? Can you remind us what the parking situation is like?
Yeah, so we have two parking lots, one on our west parking lot and one on our east. The west is where the proposed development would be. And we've told the city, we're fine with the development. We just have to come up with a permanent parking plan that will replace that parking. Any city recreational facility needs parking. If you took any, River Heights Community Center, they lost half their parking, they wouldn't be able to operate. It's just, common sense here. So all we're asking for is a permanent parking solution, and we'll be happy to work with them.
Right. And just for our audience, you lease the current lot from the city of Winnipeg. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a lease, but it includes the west parking lot, the east parking lot, and the building. It's all on one lease premises. That's correct.
What other parking options have you been looking at or have you explored?
Well, in terms of permanent parking solution, we've asked Canada Life if we'd ever get a written contract to use it indefinitely. They've politely declined, and they've been great neighbors to us. But I don't expect them to give up any of their property rights. I've asked the city countless times, have you looked to the east parking or east of our parking lot? Have you looked at Moston Park, which has been an encampment for several years that I know the city is trying to address? There is city-owned land where there could be additional parking added. And I do believe the city is looking at that. We just haven't been given a formal plan on if they'll proceed that way.
Now, I heard you say that you do support affordable housing and the project, but we've also heard that some of your members similarly support the housing project, but they intend to continue supporting the club even if they were to lose some parking spaces. What is it about the parking itself and its relation to the club that worries you most?
Well, and let's be clear here. The Granite is for affordable housing. We know we need it desperately, and that's never been the debate. The debate is that our members and our visitors need to be able to access the club like any other recreational facility. A lot of our members are older in age. They may have mobility impairments, and they can't walk, several blocks to access the club. And, we've been stewards of the club for 113 years, and we want to see it thrive for a long time. And if we can support a development beside it, then we're happy to do so. We just need a solution from the city before they try to ram this through.
The vote is happening later today. What's next for you if the city council votes yes to move ahead with their plan?
Well, we'll have to decide as a board how we want to proceed. I mean, the Granite doesn't want to be in this battle. It's not something I want to do. I'm doing this all on volunteer time. But I mean, at the same time, the Granite has to make sure its best interests are kept in mind. And it seems like the city is sort of forcing our hand to have to try to challenge them. And we don't want to, but if that's the right process, then that's how we'll proceed.
Christian, thank you for your time this morning.
Yes, thank you.
Christian Pierce is the board secretary for the Granite Curling Club. As I mentioned, the CBC did reach out to the city. It said, quote, city staff weren't able to meet with the Granite Curling Club leading up to the Manitoba Municipal Board hearing as the matter was pending a decision from the board. Staff plan to meet with the club to discuss a new lease once council has made a decision on the proposed development for 22 Granite Way, unquote.
Ho, ho, ho! Santa here with an invitation to call me on Radio Noon. The reindeer and I will swing by on December 24th to take your calls. Boys and girls, let me know if you're ready for Christmas. Baking cookies, creating decorations, putting them on the tree, and have your wish list ready. That's December 24th on CBC Radio Noon.
You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. An update regarding school closures. The University of Winnipeg is now completely closed today. There are no classes. There are no exams. The University of Manitoba is also closed. Students from both universities are recommended to check online and communicate with the university regarding rescheduled exams. We're also hearing James Nesbitt Nursery School also closed, and we heard earlier in the show that all schools within the city of Winnipeg are closed today. Show director Corey Funk is back here with an update on your commute. Hello.
Yes, and just a reminder to folks that pretty much if you're on a highway around Winnipeg, you shouldn't be because it's closed right now. Perimeter Highway, that includes Highway 75, Highway 59, Highway 1 from Winnipeg to the Saskatchewan border, as well as Highway 6 and Highway 8 as well. So just really if you don't need to go outside, don't. It's very, very dangerous out there on all the highways. But there are some that are slowly starting to actually reopen now in the far western Manitoba. So I'm talking about highways kind of heading between around Roblin or so are all start slowly but surely starting to actually Roblin is still closed down right now, but there's some Highway 42 starting to open, so conditions will improve, but for now they're really, really poor conditions, so just stay off the highways if you can. Lots of buses that are stuck, particularly on Nairn all morning, westbound Nairn. There's a bus stuck there, and the car and the truck is also folded into the situation there, completely backed up, as you can imagine, on that Nairn overpass, as well as another bus that we heard is stuck outside the Fairmont, just heading towards Portage and Maine, and just general pandemonium out there on the roads this morning, including on Pembina, where there's been a power outage all morning between Abinogi-Meekna and Clarence that has a bunch of intersections completely out, and that's also impacted the U of M as well. So that also means crosswalks are out. So if you are out on foot, just heads up, it's going to be very, very dangerous out there. If you see anything else going on, you can still give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank
it's
you.
time for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is minus 18. We are in the throes of a blizzard. That blizzard ending this morning and then clearing, but that wind is going to stick with us through the day, meaning more blowing snow. Temperature slides to minus 22 this afternoon. Well, a city almost paralyzed. City schools are closed today. The perimeter highway shut down. Garbage collection canceled. Transit delayed. About the only thing that is moving are snowplows, and our CBC reporter Megan Ketchison is moving out in the middle of all this bluster. Megan?
Well, I am moving quite slowly this morning because the drifts are now up to my thighs. So it's the snow is coming down. The wind is blowing. It's light snow, so it's picking up, and that's what's causing problems out there. As you said, all schools in Winnipeg are closed. This hasn't happened since April of 2022 because also of a blizzard. Now, this is coming from the Winnipeg Metro Superintendents for the safety of the students and the staff. That's coming from the Winnipeg Police Advisory issuing this morning to avoid road travel. And that decision will close all the schools in Louis Riel, River East Transcona, St. James of Assiniboia, Seven Oaks, DFSM, Pembina Trails, and Winnipeg school divisions. Now, there are also more than a dozen school divisions across Manitoba that have canceled classes today because of the conditions. We do have a list of those on the website. At the U of M, the university is closed, and exams that are scheduled for today will be rescheduled for Saturday. At the U of M, the 9 a.m. exams are canceled, and watch the website for any other changes there. RRC Polytechnic is closed until 11. The perimeter and highways across southern Manitoba, including now Highway 75, 59, 2 and 3, the Trans-Canada from Winnipeg to the Saskatchewan border. Western Manitoba highways, for the most part, are closed north of the Trans-Canada Highway and in the Interlake. There are a couple of highways in the Roblin area that are starting to reopen. Now, out at the airport, flights are canceled or delayed until at least 11 o'clock this morning. Check with your airlines and the Airports Authority website. Now, the city does have plows out. They've been out since about 1 this morning. As of 7 a.m., they started clearing the sidewalks and the pathways, and they'll continue with the street priority system. Garbage collection is canceled, and there is a swath along Pembina Highway down to Highway 75 where there are hydro outages. This includes an area from McGilvery south to Port Richmond and from the city to St. Agath, and those are expected to be restored by about 9 o'clock this morning. So it is miserable out here. Expect delays if you are trying to get anywhere this morning. Reporting live, Megan Ketchison, CBC News.
Thanks so much, Megan. You're a trooper. And as you are out, if anyone is out in the midst
Dr.
of this
Jeff
storm,
Wong has been in the
you're
role
being
for
advised
3
to
months,
drive to
tasked
conditions.
with the
Hey,
high-stakes
Marcia.
job
A
of
Winnipeg
stabilizing
doctor
the
says she was
Good morning.
stunned by an anti-Semitic tirade at a Hanukkah ceremony. It happened during a menorah lighting Monday at the Winnipeg Health Sciences Centre. The man hurled profanities at a group of 10 people as they were setting up. The doctor says the man shouted, "Free Palestine," when he was done. She says she was in disbelief. CBC is not naming the doctor because she fears for her safety.
We were all just stunned. None of us really said anything. I thought we all just felt a feeling of that this was just completely surreal, that we couldn't believe that someone not only had yelled at us when we were literally doing nothing except standing and talking to each other, but that they had used such vile language.
Hospital leadership and Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera have since spoken out against what happened. Winnipeg police are investigating. The number of people on the wait list for Manitoba public housing is the largest it's been in 5 years. Savannah Huard is cramming her family of 6 into a 3-bedroom apartment. She's been on the wait list for the larger part of 6 years. Huard says 2 of her children are sleeping in the kitchen because there's nowhere else they can fit their beds.
It's a big open space, and now that my daughter is going to be 12, almost a teen, she now needs the privacy thing, and that is not in here at all. So it's affecting her quite a bit.
Tenants and advocates say the province needs to increase the public housing supply. Only 51 new public housing units have been built since the NDP took power in 2023. The housing minister says they're building as fast as they can, fighting a backlog from the previous government. Charges against a man accused of domestic violence were stayed because the case took too long to get to trial. The judge says delays violated the man's charter rights to be tried within a reasonable time. The Crown Attorneys Association says the province needs more prosecutors to get cases moving faster. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says the government is working on it.
Any case that is, doesn't come to trial in a timely fashion is of concern to me. But what is in our control is to ensure that the right resources are there.
A Supreme Court ruling gives provincial courts 18 months from charges to trial before cases can be stayed, barring exceptional circumstances. The province says 15 cases have been stayed because of the time limit. You can find the latest news and the latest on this blizzard and its impacts on southern Manitoba, including in Winnipeg. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Gory Funk is back with the commute.
Perimeters closed. Highway 1 from Winnipeg to Saskatchewan border closed. If many of the highways right around Winnipeg closed, as well as West Manitoba, just be careful. Avoid the highways. Avoid the roads if you can. Poor conditions all around right across the province. Thanks to everyone who called in this morning.
Riley Lachuk.
Very windy. Winds will be an issue throughout the day today. North 50, gusting to about 80 in the city. Take care if you have to be out there today.
Thank you to Sophia Peralta Barone, Abby Adeyemi, Darren Morash, our news team, Heather Wells, Aaron Broman, Megan Ketchison, Darren Bernhardt, and of course, Riley Lachuk. Nellie Gonzalez is our show producer, and Leif Larson is our senior producer of audio. Thanks for sticking with us. We got through the morning here all together. Stay tuned to CBC Radio 1. Our local programming will be keeping you updated. Our news updates will be around as well. I'm Chloe Friesen.